days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from offseason to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback. It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time, and it's time for the live stream, and we have a lot of cool stuff to go over today because, believe it or not, this time is supposed to be a dead period, but 49ers news is all over the place.
That's kind of nuts, man. It's like, people know the season's getting ready to start, things are about to get exciting, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just everything.
Yeah.
Everything happening all at once, right? Names being thrown the 49ers' way, guys getting cut. Moving on from guys, Kyle Shanahan having a very, very open conversation on the Flying Coach podcast with his boy Sean McVay, by the way.
Yeah, he did. He had a very open conversation and revealed a lot.
A bunch actually. But before we get too far into the live stream today, before we get too far into anything else, really, if you're not subscribed already, you're just tuning in for the very first time, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash that thing right now, become a member of the Cutback crew today. Don't forget to hit that like button as well. Share the video with the rest of the faithful. Share it on your socials, right? Tweet at us right now at 49ers Cutback on Twitter. All of that great stuff on social media. Get involved with all of our channels. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, pretty much all of it. It's pretty great. You can get really involved and really invested in all this 49ers Cutback content. And go check out the merch store if you haven't already. Link should be in the description down below. And if it's not, there it is right there at the top of the screen. You cannot miss it. 49ers-cutback.myshopify.com. You can get all your new 49ers Cutback gear, 49ers inspired gear. It's a good time.
Megan says our audio sounds echoey.
Well, that is very, very interesting indeed. The Jimmy Ward Grant Cohn interview, watched a little bit of it.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't had a chance to watch a lot of that interview. I plan on watching it, though, because I do want to hear what Jimmy Ward had to say. And just curious, how the interview went. But I will watch that later on, probably tonight, or even tomorrow morning, so that way I can get a good idea. Before we get into the interview, though, with Kyle Shanahan, one thing I wanted to go over is the Nathan Gerry wave. Because I think we both thought Nathan Gerry was at least going to compete for a roster spot, and the fact the 49ers released him now, I know he had the injury, he was still recovering from the Achilles, but everything pointed towards him being able to go in training camp and being ready to, play, and now he's gone. The 49ers are going to be making a move, you would think. They have 89 players on their roster now, not 90. So
move coming?
They have a roster spot. You don't think they're going to start training camp with 89 guys?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any way. You've already gone this far, right?
Yeah, I mean, were you surprised that they cut Nathan Gerry now and didn't wait, or you think that a move is imminent? I thought a move was imminent and that a move was going to happen, you would think, within 24 to 48 hours, but they're still sitting here with the open roster spot.
Look, I'm sitting here right now wondering myself what the heck's going on, why they made the decision when they made it. We both kind of thought there was a chance, right? This could be this case, right? Everyone's talking about the Nathan Gerry, Al-Shaair possible matchup. We all, I know I felt comfortable that if Nathan Gerry's healthy, he could push for that starting job. But then there was also those rumblings and that idea, right, that maybe, just maybe, that's why they went after a guy like Talanoa Hufanga, right? This is the future. Is they're going to have this hybrid type of guy who can take up a linebacker spot but can also play safety and can kind of bounce back and forth. This makes me think that a move is imminent.
Yeah.
And it's funny because this happens right around the same time that the N'Keal Harry stuff comes out.
Yeah.
So now this kind of makes, in everybody's mind, right, including ours now, is this someone that they're targeting?
It could be. My first thought was, I don't think that the linebackers that they have behind Demetrius Flanagan-Foles are guys that we consider that can ultimately make this roster. So you would think it would be another linebacker. That was my first instinct, was that, here comes Quan Alexander, or here comes KJ Wright.
Possibly.
Or here comes somebody like that. But you're right. The information on N'Keal Harry comes out that he's requested a trade, and maybe he's an option. The 49ers did, in fact, like N'Keal Harry in that draft.
Oh, they love him.
They liked him. In fact, I liked N'Keal Harry coming out because once again, I like guys that can compete for balls in the air and really battle and is a red zone threat. But you would think when you cut a defensive player, you're going to sign another defensive player. So to me, that doesn't translate very well. So I'm kind of curious because I have kind of seen a little bit of hints from Quan Alexander about he's to that point now where he's as far along or farther along than Nathan Gerry with the Achilles. So he's able to come back. I thought it would be another linebacker, but could it also be another defensive player? Could it also be Richard Sherman? I know a lot of people don't like hearing that. But also, I mean, just having that roster spot, you would think a defensive player signing is imminent, and it might not actually be a trade or some sort of move for N'Keal Harry.
It might not be, right? We all might be jumping the gun on this. I know that was my knee-jerk reaction, right? Because the N'Keal Harry stuff comes out, he's requesting a trade. All of a sudden, Nathan Gerry no longer a 49er, and it's like 1 + 1 might equal 2. But very well could be the case. And here's the thing I will say is, while they did like N'Keal Harry coming out of college, that was a few years ago and a couple injuries ago. So there's some due diligence on that front. Is it likely that maybe this is a Quan signing or another linebacker or a defensive guy? Very well could be. They could be at a point now where they think they have at least enough time has passed, they have enough negotiating power, right, and leverage now to maybe go get a veteran guy like a KJ or a Richard Sherman without having to break the bank in order to accomplish it. Could be the case. But again, there's also about $5 million in cap space right now.
There's not a lot. They still got to, because they got to sign their rookie still.
Still got to sign their rookie, so they got about $5 million they can play with. Are you willing to eat up most of that in order to go get one of these big veteran named guys? Quan is probably not a guy you're going to have to spend a whole lot on, K1. It's just not going to happen because of the injury and all the stuff that's been going on with him the last couple of years. So he is a guy on the cheap that doesn't break that nice little $4 or $5 million cushion that you want to have, right, going into potentially middle of the season. But there's still the Fred Warner extension.
Yeah,
coming up. There could be a restructuring of a couple guys' contracts in order to free up some more money.
Could be. So
again, if the idea here is that maybe they made the cut because the Fred Warner extension's happening, someone is going to get restructured, and they would just want to see how much money they have available. That could be the case.
I mean, to me, they've decided that Nathan Gerry wasn't going to make this roster, and so there was no point in keeping him on. But you did free up the veteran minimum to go ahead and make a move. Quan Alexander's already getting paid by the 49ers.
True.
So they could, I mean, theoretically tell him, hey, look, we're already paying you this much money. We're going to pay you an additional $1.5 million to come here and play. And, I mean, that way he's getting one salary from San Francisco. Now, I mean, he could still hold out and hope another team is going to give him more money so he can kind of double down and get extra, double dip, get extra money. But I think Quan liked being here. I think he liked playing with Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. So I do think that is a possibility. One thing is, though, I just don't know. I just don't know what they're doing because we're sitting here for so long now with an empty roster spot. Usually when the 49ers make a roster move like this, a corresponding roster move happens within 24 to 72 hours. And we're sitting here and a corresponding move hasn't happened yet. So could have happened tonight, could have happened tomorrow. Yes, it could. I'm just curious what that's going to be. And I see people bringing up in the comment section about an edge rusher. Could it be Melvin Ingram? Could it be Justin Houston?
They're going to need some money.
Unless they're going to take a really cheap deal.
I mean, we're talking stupid cheap for both of those guys. Are we all convinced that both of these guys are going to take that kind of the kind of discount we would need them to take in order to not break the bank?
Right. Well,
I don't know.
Well, I think the timing is wrong for those guys. Because I think we did get a super chat from Megan. Thank you, Megan. Appreciate it.
Appreciate that a lot, Megan.
I think the timing is wrong for those guys only because I think they're going to push it all the way into training camp. Right? We saw this happen last year where some of the edge rushers waited until all the way to training camp and they came on and got as much money as they can get. Why would you sign now for limited amount of money when you could wait and maybe someone suffers an injury at the beginning of training camp, or maybe D Ford isn't able to do what he's supposed to do, and then they go ahead and bring one of those guys in then. So they can kind of hold out and wait and see if there's another opportunity where they can still make some money this year and not have to go in there and take a very cheap deal. Like you said, the 49ers do not have a lot of salary cap space to play with.
No, they really have none, in all honesty. It's light, right? Megan, we really do appreciate the super chats. Everyone who's been super chatting too, by the way. Luke Luna, on the premieres we've been having as well. You guys have been fantastic. We greatly appreciate that. And look here at the end of the day, Kyle Shanahan had talked about this a little bit in the Flying Coach podcast, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. But he talked about making moves to be competitive now without having to sacrifice the future. And that's what a N'Keal Harry signing or the Houston signing or the Ingram signing would be. If you're making a move for one of these guys, there is some future that you are potentially chunking into, and the question becomes how much are you willing to sacrifice to make yourself that much better right now if you don't have to do it right now and you can be 10 times better in the future. You're having to weigh those two things. And so the Melvin Ingram thing is hard because I think he still has a lot in the tank. I still think he's got 2-3 great years left of football in him. I don't know if all 3 of those years can be in San Francisco. And how much do you want to pay for it to be just 1 year?
Well, I don't think you're looking for somebody on a long-term deal when it comes to Ingram or Houston. You're looking at somebody that's going to come in and play this year, try to help you win a Super Bowl, and then you will, kind of play the cards, later on down the road and see how it goes when you have a rookie pay scale and Jimmy G isn't on the roster. So you have the kind of the freedom and flexibility, to maybe extend those guys. But I think they do know they're a rental. And I think the 49ers understand that with a lot of their players right now. I think they completely understand that K'Wan Williams, Jason Verrett, and those guys are, Jaquiski Tartt are possible 1-year players for them because next year the cap is going up and they can go out and re-examine their place in the league and how much money they can get. What's their market on the open market and see what they can get. And so I think that they are trying to win this year, and there is a reason to look at these guys. That's why when people bring them up, it's not a bad idea. It's always about cost and effect. How much are these guys going to cost, and what effect can they have on your football team? If you believe that effect is high enough and it won't cripple you in the future, then you go ahead and you make the move. That way you can have an opportunity to win. We talked about this a lot, the 1994 team, when they brought in Richard Dent, they brought in Ricky Jackson, they brought in all those guys, and then they won a Super Bowl. Sometimes you need to do that. You need to go ahead and flip the switch, change things up and make, great moves to win championships. If one of those guys come, though, I think it'll be closer to training camp, and it's when all options have been exhausted by them, and they're now come to the understanding that they're not going to get a big contract, and now it's where can I go to maximize my potential in the future and to win a championship.
That's true. And I think for the 49ers, too, I don't think any moves are being made until Fred Warner's contract is extended, but I think that's coming very, very soon.
Yeah.
We had the live stream. We talked about when it might be in the last live stream.
Yeah.
And then literally within like 48 hours, the reports come out that they've began negotiation talks with Fred Warner. It's like, okay, well, and you were right on the board with that probably before we even get into training camp, before we step in the door, or literally on day one, it'll be a done deal by this point. But man, I'll tell you what, I trust the front office. I don't know what this move is, releasing Nathan Gerry. I think the N'Keal Harry becoming available or wanting to make himself available is a little bit of a surprise to me, just because I know he's been injured and hasn't done well in New England. How much of that is system there in New England and the complexity of the routes and things of that nature, and how much of that has been quarterback play, and how much of it has been his injuries, because his injuries they've been lower body injuries, and that takes a toll on a wide receiver.
I went and watched some more film on Arizona State, N'Keal Harry, and then I actually watched 2 games of him in New England. I went back and watched one of them. He was he enforced the ball by Cam. The big thing with N'Keal Harry was the separation issues. He couldn't get separation. I don't know how much of that, like you talked about his scheme, how much is that would change with the 49ers. I know one thing, he wouldn't play on the outside for the 49ers. But I still think the 49ers are looking. We had an episode about this where we said, is the roster set? And me and you both agreed that no, this roster is not set, that they have moves that they still need to make. And that's what we're looking at now. The Nathan Gerry move shows that they think that there's an opportunity to get better, or that Nathan Gerry wasn't better than the players that were already in the room. So if he wasn't going to be able to beat out Flanagan Foles, there's no reason to have him on the roster. But could it also signal, because we've talked about this, that maybe one of the linebackers is going to slide into that? One of the safeties is going to slide into that linebacker role, and maybe they don't need Nathan Gerry anymore. They're just going to keep Azeez, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, and Flanagan Foles, and then a safety is actually going to be playing a hybrid linebacker role and will actually be the 5th linebacker.
I mean, I think the them cutting Nathan Gerry as early as they've cut him now before you even get into training camp and before you even get to a preseason game, I think that leads to that being a very likely possibility. That they're going to be doing something that we haven't seen before with this defense, and having a guy that's more of a hybrid that can do both, can come down the box, can match up against tight ends if you need him to. You can run a base down package at times, and match up still with a team's personnel if they decide to go 4 wideouts and a tight end or something like that.
Yeah.
You're not completely outmatched or outnumbered.
Yeah, matchups with teams like Arizona and the Rams is really important because you do need those extra cover guys in the box able to, make plays against these skilled receivers and
Absolutely.
just the formations and sets that they're going to run. Their personnel groupings, they're not going to. These teams don't have fullbacks.
No.
They're going to put a one tailback out there and a bunch of receivers every time until they go 5 receivers. That's basically all you see is either 4 receivers or 5 receivers. You don't see tight ends very often. You just don't.
No.
At least the Rams will run tight ends, but Arizona, they don't even know what a tight end is. Cliff Kingsbury still doesn't know. He sees TE and he's like, "What's that? Is that English? I don't understand it."
Touches for everyone? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I don't get it. I thought that would have been TFE. I don't get what TE is. No, that could be the case, right? It very well could be the case. And so far, chat, you've been all over this tonight, chat. There's been some good questions so far already and some things that have come up, and I wanted to talk about one of them, but I got to find it first. I got to find it because chat has been alive as all can be. Oh, here it is. From Pinor. And I don't think I've seen Pinor.
Yeah, he's been commenting on some stuff.
In the premieres, correct? Yeah. Yes, I haven't seen him on a live stream before. He asked earlier, who would you guys rather have, Richie James Jr. or N'Keal Harry? And with that spot open, what position would you guys address?
Well, I don't think that is a good comparison because they do completely different things.
Okay.
Richie James, I think, is a vertical threat that attacks in a different way than I see N'Keal Harry being used. I see him in the 49ers offense being used more in a Kendrick Bourne power slot, convert third downs, red zone type threat. I think when you look at N'Keal Harry, you see a lot of what you're going to get from some of the things Jalen Hurd can do and also why they got Jawan Jennings. Jawan Jennings and N'Keal Harry, body size, the way that they use their body to catch the ball, the things that they do with the ball in their hands are very similar. They're not going to outrun anyone, but they're physical at the point of contact. So I think that is kind of the mold you're seeing, where with Richie James, you can do so many other things. Because I actually heard some people saying N'Keal Harry could be used in like reverses and fly sweeps, and that is not right. That's not true. He will get ran down by outside linebackers in this league. He ran a 4.5 40. He does not run a 4.5 on the field. He doesn't look like it. He looks like he looks like a high 4.6 guy. So I don't see that part of his game where Richie does those type of things. So I think they're just different players and different matchups. If we were going to go apples to apples comparison, I would put N'Keal Harry in a competition with Jalen Hurd, but Jalen Hurd does so many extra things. And Jawan Jennings. I think Jennings is the real matchup, him and Mohamed Sanu. And then with Richie James, his real competition for the role that he does is River Craycraft, which, I don't know how much of the competition that is, and Travis Benjamin, because they do similar things.
True.
We look at the 49ers, the way that they're built, Sherfield also is somebody that does what James, yeah, not what James does, but also what N'Keal Harry does. Yeah, he's kind of that bigger guy that catches the ball, doesn't really get a lot of yards after the catch. N'Keal Harry, especially in New England, didn't get a lot of yards after the catch.
No, it wasn't his thing, right? He played more like a possession receiver, but he wasn't drafted to be a possession guy. That's not kind of what his thing was. His thing was to be the deep threat, over the top, big body, right, red zone presence. Kind of your go-to, your security blanket at the receiver position. Maybe not Julio Jones-esque, but somewhere before that, you're hoping he can eventually develop into that sort of range or that type of receiver. And he showed the promise at Arizona State. You could see it when he in college, what he could do,
right,
and what he could be. Now, granted, there has been a lot of issues with New England and developing wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
They have not done a good job of developing wideouts. They've done a good job of trading for wide receivers. They've done great at getting tight ends and developing tight ends. Receivers has not been a strength in New England pretty much ever during the Bill Belichick era. So, could it be product of the environment, and that's why N'Keal Harry's struggling? Absolutely. do we want to trade a 6th round or 5th round pick, or do we want to trade up draft capital, trade that away to find out if that's the case? That's a risk.
Well, I think the first thing we have to make clear is they're not going to trade a 6th round pick because they don't have one.
Correct.
So it has to be one of their 3 7th round picks, or a
couple of them,
or a 5th round pick. You could do a 7th, maybe that could 7th this year,
incentives.
7th the next year, something like that. But you really got to make sure you're going to go with the right. Now, we can't wait for him to get cut and then try to claim him, because somebody will claim him. He's still a 1st round talent as far as where he was drafted.
And very early still in his NFL career.
I mean, if you're one of those teams like Jacksonville or one of them, right, you just go ahead and put in a claim for him, bring him in, see what he can do. At $1.6 million against the cap, that's nothing. I mean, that's really you take a shot on that.
Me a peanuts.
Yeah, so, I mean, I seen people bring up that the 49ers could easily cut one of their veteran wide receivers and be able to slide him in there for about the same amount of money, and they're 100% correct. So in that regard, I don't see it. I don't think it's a big deal as far as trade capital. I think it's if New England is willing to move off of him. I don't think anyone's willing to give much more than a late round pick. And I wonder if the 49ers would actually make the move. Depends on how high they were. And just because they were high on him 2 years ago doesn't mean they haven't already did something else along the way. Because let's not forget, the draft that they were high on him, they drafted Deebo Samuel and Jalen Hurd. So I don't think they would be as high on him now that they got those 2 guys. Plus, since then, they've also picked up Brandon Ayuk. So a lot has changed. They have a lot of extra groceries. I'm not sure if they need to grab this guy.
I mean, yeah, look, and Pino, that's a great point, right? Richie James, in the system, he's had his moments, and then he's had some just wondering where the heck he is. I don't know. His time in San Francisco is coming to an end here if he can't figure it out. This training camp is going to kind of be his last shot to stick in San Francisco, especially with wide receiver 3 being up in the air. This is his opportunity to take this position and take that opportunity and run with it. I don't know if he's going to be able to. A healthy Jalen Hurd is going to make that really, really hard. A healthier Mohamed Sanu is going to make that hard. And a completely year removed, completely fresh, returning to football Travis Benjamin is going to make that very difficult as well.
Yes, it is. And I see that a wide receiver swap, Richie James for N'Keal Harry, yes, I would do that. Because I think that because they play different roles, you could easily make that move if you don't think Juwan Jennings could beat out N'Keal Harry.
That's the only thing.
Yeah, because I've heard some people say they would trade Jalen Hurd for N'Keal Harry. I'm going to go ahead and say that I would be very upset.
That's going to be a no from me, dog.
Yeah, that's a big no from me as well. But I would do a Richie James for N'Keal Harry if I thought he could beat out Juwan Jennings. If I think that they're comparable, which me personally right now, from what I've seen of him in the NFL, now I haven't seen a lot of Juwan Jennings in the NFL because he hasn't done anything.
It's true.
But what I've seen from both college films, Juwan Jennings is a dog, and N'Keal Harry was a dog. But I've seen N'Keal Harry not be able to get separation in the NFL. I haven't seen it yet from Juwan Jennings, so I'm kind of like, I don't know.
It's a toss-up, and that's
Yeah.
for me is kind of why it's what's making me lean right now more and more kind of every day towards the Nathan Gerry cutting isn't to make this move.
No.
There's something else in mind.
I think so.
There's another player in mind. There's another idea in mind. And we're just going to be wait and see and be patient. Now, the other part of his question was, what would you address? I mean, DB or linebacker are the 2 spots that pop into my head immediately off the jump. If what typically holds true ends up being true in this case, right, which is you cut a defensive guy, so you're going to bring a defensive guy in. If that's the case, then I'm thinking DB or linebacker.
Yeah, I would think so. I think it's going to be DB or linebacker because I don't think those edge rushers are going to make a move until training camp starts. So I don't think that any edge rusher is going to sign. And if they do, it's going to be for a good enough amount of money that the 49ers are priced out. So I think that's true. I think the move would have to be in Richard Sherman or Quan or KJ Wright. And I think even KJ is going to wait. So
I mean, if it's KJ Wright, dude, I'm going to be so pumped. If it's KJ Wright, that'd be nuts.
You think so?
That'd be crazy.
You think KJ is going to be okay with that kind of role, though? Or would the 49ers change the base to play the base more? Because they're not going to want to take Dre Greenlaw off the field in obvious pass downs.
I wouldn't want to take Dre
But KJ can play all 3 downs as well. So can Quan. So, I mean, it does give a lot of flexibility when you have those guys.
It's true.
So it's definitely an interesting prospect.
For sure. It definitely is.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of options and opportunities. We're just going to have to wait to see what the direction is for this defense and the signing and what move they're going to make, what position they're going to go be aggressive about right now. A lot of possibilities, a lot of potentiality. Bring him back as a player coach. I mean, I haven't seen that in a while. It's been a long time since something like that's happened. Sherman has the mind for it, but I don't think that's the case. Richard Sherman's not ready to hang him up just yet.
Richard Sherman has to decide what role he wants to play in the NFL. And I think he wants to play corner. And I think teams are really interested in him playing a corner/safety. And if he was willing to play that role and not play every down, but come in key situations, I think he'll be on the 49ers. And if he's not, if he just wants to play corner, he's going to have to wait for an injury to happen, and then he'll find his spot. Because I don't think he wants to play for a team that can't win a championship either.
That's the big thing with Sherman at this point in his career. He knows what he's playing for now.
Yeah.
He's not playing to prove anything in terms of I still got it, or he just wants championships, right? He just wants rings. He wants to play on the best team, be a part of the best team, help build a culture, help establish it. Because at this point, I think he does understand that that's where his contribution is the greatest, is playing on a really great team in which he doesn't have to be the guy.
Yeah.
And he can help build the culture up and bring in the things to help you get a team over the hump that maybe hasn't been there yet. Or hasn't been there in a while.
I think he also understands he needs a really great defensive line.
Yeah,
if he has a really great defensive line, he can be successful because he moves with anticipation. He reads things early on. Where he gets hurt is when plays go 3 and 4 seconds, 4 and 5 seconds. Then all of a sudden he gets beat down the field. So he's got to have a team that can get after it.
This is a great question. What is Sherman's football IQ worth? Because personally, to me, his IQ is I don't know if it's priceless, but it's close. His understanding of defense, of offensive coordinators, schemes, tendencies, things they like to do, down and distances, right? Length, down and distance in terms of like length to the sideline, if he's playing on the short side versus wide side, how yards to go for a first down in comparison also to knowing where you're at on the field, right? Are you playing from their 30 and it's a 2nd and 10, or are you playing from your own 20 and it's a 2nd and 10? Those types of things. He understands tendency so well that he can impart a lot of wisdom onto a team. Here's the problem, though. You can impart as much wisdom as you want onto a group of people, right? You can drag a horse to water, but if the horse don't want to drink, ain't nothing you can do. All that wisdom is going to go in one ear and out the other. So it's a combination of the football IQ itself and what he has and what he can bring to the table and how it's able to translate into on-field production. Him personally, he struggles now with the on-field production portion.
Yeah.
In terms of actually imparting it upon another person, I mean, we've seen improvements in the secondary, but again, that's a hard thing to measure. That's hard to quantify that.
I think pre-Jason Verrett, it was invaluable. It was something you had to have. Now you have Jason Verrett, who is a Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber player, who has the same mental aspects. And him and Emmanuel Mosley just spent 2 years learning from Richard Sherman. Now it's time to let the guys fly. Let them do what they're supposed to do. Always having somebody on that team. I mean, we think about it over the years, back in the 80s, having Hacksaw, having, Matt Millen in 89. There are always guys that you brought in that were super intelligent football-wise that made everyone better. I mean, Hacksaw made Keena Turner so much better because he taught him how to view football from a different point of view. And that's what you did. That's what happened with Richard Sherman. So from 2018 on, that was great. That's what we needed from Sherman. He did what he was supposed to do. Now he has to take a different role. He can still still have the same value mentally, but he can't have the same value physically. So it's time to let the young bucks fly and let Jason Verrett take over as the guy that runs this secondary because he is an elite talent.
100% agree with you there. 100% agree with you there. Man, I'll tell you what though. Other big, important, exciting things that happened in 49ers world happened the other day.
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan was on the Flying Coach podcast with Peter and Sean McVay. You heard it first here. Sean freaking McVay, head coach of the Rams. If you don't know, they're buddies. They're pretty close. They spend a lot of time together. I'm just going to start calling him Little Gruden or Little John. I'll just call him Little John. There we go. Little John, because he sounds dead on like John Gruden. His inflections, the way he enunciates all of his words and word choices. At one point, he literally started to go with, and I'll tell you what, man, he started to say it, and then he kind of caught himself and slowed it down a little bit and got away from it. I cracked up. I listened to that podcast about 2 times.
Yeah.
There's a lot of insight in there and a lot of in-depth things with Kyle Shanahan and this team that weren't known, number one. but number two, that you typically don't get from this guy.
Yeah, and I think that he cleared the air on a bunch of things. And one of the first things you can do is look at what he said, take it into account, and then move on from it. Because I think that Kyle did a very good job of being real. And this is one of the things that people talk about all the time when you're dealing with Kyle Shanahan, whether it's a coach, a player, front office, opponent, is he's always going to be real with you and give you real answers. And that's what he did for the fans right here. He admitted they were into Matthew Stafford. They were definitely interested in Matthew Stafford. He wanted Matthew Stafford, and he was slow. They were slow on it, and they didn't get it done, and the Stafford thing got away from him because he really likes Matthew Stafford and the things that he can do. So, yes, they were trying to improve the quarterback position. We knew that 100% already. We knew that there was a possibility they were interested in Stafford, but the truth is the 49ers never had a real opportunity to even get involved in the Stafford thing because it was already done, because it moved really quick, according to McVay, that it happened really fast, and McVay and the Rams got him. Another thing that this tells me, and I'm going to kind of bridge this a little bit, is that move alone, right when that happened, later on they talk about the fact that Julio Jones, that the 49ers would have been more interested in Julio Jones if the Rams would have been interested in him. The first thing it made me think was, okay, when they got Stafford, the 49ers thought to themselves, the Rams are a real threat in the West, and we can't let them get anyone else that could possibly make them better than us. So they believe the Rams are the real threat. He tried to cover it by saying, I know what Pete can do. I know what Cliff can do. No, he knows the Rams are the real threat, and that he believed, McVay and Kyle Shanahan believe they are the two top dogs in the division battling it out, and it's an arms race. This is the Soviet Union versus the U.S. They're in the Cold War. They're doing everything they can to make sure they win this division.
It's the NFC West war, right?
It's
the NFC West war.
It is.
Look, that was a great point and a great dynamic of that conversation was hearing them talk about Matthew Stafford. Kyle Shanahan is very high on Matthew Stafford, as is McVay. So hearing Kyle Shanahan talk about Stafford that way and McVay basically echoing all of those things makes you think now that Kyle Shanahan truly believes deep down that this move was a move not only that he wanted to make himself, it's a move that puts that team over the top.
Yes.
I think he believes that the Rams are that much better now with Stafford and not Goff in place. Because Peter at one point during that interview started to talk about Goff's comeback.
Yeah.
In the NFC Championship game, and Kyle just sat there very quietly as they were talking through all of that. Didn't have a whole lot to say, but had a lot to say when it got to the topic of Stafford and basically how he ruined his night in Cabo.
Yeah,
because of the move and him basically beating himself up over it. Because, like you said, he had conversations with their GM for the Lions and basically made it sound like there was no decision that was going to be made until the next day. And then he had a buddy reach out and basically tell him, "Hey, it's happening. Like, it's going to happen. You need to get on this." He's like, "Oh, no, I talked to somebody. It's good." And the next day it's done. And you're like, oh my gosh. So this is the first time where we actually get some words out. This also now brings credence to and proof to the fact that no offer was ever officially made for Stafford on the 49ers front.
Yes.
There were discussions, but nothing ever got put on the table. Because if something had got put on the table, this deal with the Rams wouldn't have got done as quick as it did.
Yes.
Because it would have become a bidding war.
It would have. It definitely would have. And they were definitely in on Stafford. They wanted him. And I think before this, I thought that was a possibility, that they actually wanted him. But we had heard that there was no offer made. And this kind of confirmed that there was no offer made. But one thing I will say is that the 49ers were definitely looking to improve the position. Now, one of the things that got brought up to me, I don't know how everyone else feels about this, but I was asked the question, would you have rather them made the move to get Matthew Stafford and give up what the Rams gave up, or to trade the 3 first-round picks or the 2 first-round picks and then make the pick for Trey Lance? Which move would you have preferred this offseason? Both of them, okay, one of them would have made it so Jimmy Garoppolo was gone and you were counting on Matthew Stafford. You would have improved in one area, maybe even drafted a Mac Jones later on as an heir apparent to Stafford eventually. Or would have been more okay with what they did? And you were taking some time on this.
I'm going to say that I would have preferred Matt Stafford.
Okay.
And the reason for that is I don't know if there's that much of a downgrade or a drop-off between Stafford and Jimmy. There is one thing that I know with 100% certainty that Matt Stafford does, and that is the dude plays through injury.
Yeah.
He can be on the field and be available. Even when he's not 100%, he still plays better than most. And so it's one of those things where 2-2 sucks. 3-1's, it doesn't suck if Trey Lance pans out and is the future of the franchise for the next 15 years. It doesn't sting as much giving up those 3 firsts. But if Trey Lance is just, a slight improvement over Jimmy Garoppolo, eventually that's going to bite us in the butt at some point. The only extreme positive with Trey Lance is the rookie pay scale. I would have preferred Matt Stafford because I would have liked to see how the draft would have changed if we had made the move for Stafford, right? If we had been able to pull the trigger for 2-2s and get Matthew Stafford, how different would that draft have looked like? What pieces could we have gotten? What things could we have gone after? Could we be sitting here right now talking about Zayvon Collins in San Francisco?
Maybe.
I mean, potentially. Also, potentially his, reckless driving.
Yeah, I know.
Yes. So there's that also. But
No,
I mean, so many things could have played out differently. It's one of those things where it's like right here and now, Matt Stafford would have been great. The question just becomes his future. What do you do down the road and down the line? Because he has a lot of money that he's making as well. And it's not as big of a contract hit as Jimmy right now, but he's going to eventually have to get paid again.
Yeah, and I think you brought it up when you're talking about Matthew Stafford. One thing is we know what Matthew Stafford is, right? So he's a known commodity. We don't know what Trey Lance is going to be. We have ideas. We can kind of project it.
We're schemers.
Yeah, we're schemers, and we know that everyone on Twitter knows what he is. They've told us. But that's not true because he hasn't played a single game yet. So anyone that's telling you what Trey Lance is going to be is not accurate yet because he hasn't proven anything. I will say this, however, is I would still have traded for Trey Lance. And the reason being is I believe that his upside is going to be huge because Kyle Shanahan also said in the interview, is another revealing thing, when they're talking about what they look for in a quarterback. They talked about the pocket presence, which we know is very important.
And by the way, they went into extreme depth and detail too.
Yes.
About the things they like about quarterbacks and pocket presence. Him and McVay talking about that, you can see how much of Mike Shanahan and John Gruden is established in both of them and how much influence both of those guys have had over him. Because hearing them, they basically described pocket quarterbacks in almost the exact same way, but using completely different verbiage and just views of pocket mobility and presence in the pocket.
Well, it's the West Coast offense.
Yeah.
I mean, the fluidness of the way that they approach the quarterback position is every quarterback is looked at differently and how they fit into the offense is done differently and how you adjust your offense is done differently. So there's no set parameters at which they look at a quarterback. So they have certain things they're looking at. One thing that Kyle did let out of the bag was the things that they could do with Trey Lance. The things that he was going to be able to do with Trey Lance was different than anyone else that he was going to be able to get. That was what separated Trey Lance from Mac Jones. You knew what you were getting from Mac Jones because he was going to sit in the pocket, he was going to throw the ball, he was going to be on time. But with Trey Lance, there was added things. How are they going to approach when things are flying into their face? How are they going to throw the ball? How are they going to respond? Are they going to be able to extend plays? All those things Trey Lance could do. Do I like Matthew Stafford? Yes. But I'm falling in love with Trey Lance. I'm just going to say that. I'm not there yet because, once again, I haven't seen him play a single football game.
I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah, I haven't seen him play a single football game in the NFL, but I think I'm falling in love with the idea. This is like when you meet a girl for the first time and you go on that first date and you're like, oh, I've fallen in love with the idea of her. Now, date 2, she might be mean to the waiter, right? She might do some weird stuff, and then you're back to the drawing board. So we're hoping that that's not the case.
Or even the worst scenario, right, which is what you get through the first 3 dates, and then you get 5 months into the relationship and the honeymoon phase is rolling, and then it all comes crumbling down.
Are you speaking from experience?
Yes, of course. That's happened countless times.
I will say that I would make this move, but I would have, at the time, I would have been okay with Stafford because I didn't think that Trey Lance, that he was going to be, we'd have to go up to 3 to get him and make that move. So, yes, either way would have been okay with me because I trust Kyle and what he does. And he hasn't done anything to make me think that he doesn't know what he's talking about. They traded for Jimmy Garoppolo and they got us to a Super Bowl. Why else should I not believe him when he evaluates quarterbacks?
It's true. And he went full honesty mode. I mean,
Yeah.
and throughout the entirety of the interview, right?
Yeah.
From quarterback discussion and
Honesty is something we do on this show.
I know we love honesty, and we love it when Kyle Shanahan gets honest.
I do. Yeah.
Because he was truthful and he was upfront and basically letting all of 49ers faithful in the world know that the 49ers not only were not his first choice and not a team that he was even considering. He was actually worried about the 49ers team as a whole, as in coming into coaching. But he almost canceled the interview because they got about a 2-week break from the time that season ends until playoffs to just really get focused, especially when they had that bye week, really get focused, dialed in, see their family, do all that kind of fun stuff. And the Niners were one of 4 interviews that he had in that Atlanta area while they were prepping for everything for the Super Bowl and leading up. And just the Niners roster at the time, right? Not having an established quarterback, the fact that you'd been through 3 coaches in 3 years, the organization looks like it's in complete disarray. Kyle Shanahan was looking at the 49ers and being like, under no circumstances am I going here. They don't have an established QB. The roster's not great. 31st in offense, 32nd in defense. And front office is nowhere. Competent front office is nowhere to be found right now. And so he went to that meeting not very confident, not very comfortable with San Francisco. And then that turned very quickly.
Yeah, I like that he was going to cancel the interview.
I love that, too.
He was like, you know what? I need some sleep. I'm going to cancel.
He woke up, 3 minutes before they were supposed to start?
He woke up when he heard them shut the door downstairs. He's in his boxers only. He jumps up and he puts his stuff on, throws some water in his hair, doesn't even have his tie done as they're banging on the door, opens the door, lets him in, and he's like, all right, let's do this. Just winged it. Let's just wing it. You know what, though? What it did, because he wasn't trying to impress them, he told them really how he felt. And because Jed had been burned by 3 coaches before him, he had already been through the Tomasulo meat sweats and the Chip Kellys, and he looked at it and he was like, you know what? He's like, this is what we're looking for. Your points are valid. And so what you got was real conversation. And when you get real conversation, you get real results.
Correct. And here's the best part too, right? Not only the Tomasulos of the world, who was just being a conniving little meat sweaty weasel during his time in San Francisco.
Yeah.
You had the Chip Kellys, who was out more to prove something for himself than he was to build the team up, right? And then you had Harbaugh, who we can all agree Harbaugh is an honest guy. He's not a dishonest guy.
Too honest.
But that's the difference, right? Shanahan is more of a professional in terms of working with other people.
Yeah.
He knows that it takes the farm to make everything run. And while I think he knows that, Harbaugh knows that, Harbaugh also is aware that he might be the smartest guy in the room, and so he's a very imposing personality. Kyle's the exact opposite of that. He's kind of almost, at times it feels like he's kind of a go-with-the-flow guy. I don't know if you saw the picture of him. He feels that way. I know it's not the case, but he feels that way.
Yeah.
That's the persona he gives off. Did you see the picture of him this week at California Adventure?
No.
In LA?
No.
He's at California Adventure, beer in hand, flip-flops at an amusement park, bro. Who walks around an entire day in the amusement park with flip-flops? Kyle freaking Shanahan.
Yeah.
Because he has that laid-back demeanor, but by no means is this guy not prepared and ready to go and to go at your throat.
Oh, no, he's 100% prepared. That's not the question. He admitted in there, him, McVay, and those guys are cocky.
Yes.
That they believe that they're the best. And he talked about that.
You have to be. You have to be.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. They all have a chip on their shoulder. The one thing that he doesn't have to worry about that Harbaugh had to deal with is he doesn't have to deal with an idiot GM. Because lucky for him, he got Captain America, because he said to the 49ers,
I love that nickname.
I'm going to choose my general manager. I'm going to set the parameters of how long my contract is going to be. I want these things in. And Jed was like, yes, let's do that. Which is, I know his agent was surprised about. But John Lynch reached out to Kyle Shanahan. And thank God, because we didn't end up with a Trent Baalke kind of guy. I actually wanted the GM from, wanted the guy from Green Bay originally, until I heard about John Lynch. And I like John Lynch, but I like the reasons that Kyle Shanahan thought about getting John Lynch. It was, John Lynch called him and was like, dude, I miss football because I miss the passion. I miss, putting in all the effort and getting the rewards afterwards as far as taking home wins. I need something after the game that's important to me.
And that's not sitting in a booth and just talking about the game.
Right. And you can rely so much on somebody when you know what their intentions are. And he knows that John Lynch's intentions are to be the best and win as a group. John Lynch isn't worried about getting praise. He's not worried about getting promoted any further. He's interested in winning. And so when you have that mindset, you don't have to worry about that guy cutting you off or trying to, cut you out. You can have a good working relationship with him.
100%. That was the big takeaway from it that I liked when they were discussing that. Hearing that John Lynch is the one who called him about being the GM. It's one of those things where you hear that, typically you'd be like, yeah, that guy's not getting the job, until you hear about what the conversation was. And the conversation wasn't him pitching to Kyle why he was the best fit for the job. but why he needed it.
Yeah.
Why being a general manager was so important to him, and the reasons for him wanting to make that kind of change. And so when you have the motivations behind a guy like that, it's really easy to want to bring that guy in because you know you can build a culture around him because you know what his intentions are, what he wants to do, and you know they're for the team. It's the same reason why Chris Kacerek has been so successful in San Francisco. This is a guy who doesn't want to be anything else than a line coach.
Yeah.
There are no ulterior motives here. You know you can bring in project guys, give them to Kacerek, and know that Kacerek's going to pump out the best version of that product because that's what he wants to do, is coach D linemen. And so when you got a guy in there and that's hard, right? That's a hard thing to find at the NFL level, is guys who want to be career assistants or career position type coaches, or like just this is it. Like, this is what I want. As long as I have this thing, I'll be good. It's hard to find guys like that because everyone has aspirations to be the best, right? Everyone, you would hope, anyway. That
well, it depends on what you define as the best.
Correct. Best head coach, right? Coach the best position, pump out the best
that in that area,
group.
100%.
Exactly. So as long as you know what their intentions are, you can kind of build your roster and build out your coaching staff that way in your front office. But I'll tell you what, getting John Lynch, knowing fully all the things that he wants and why he wanted to be a GM, for Kyle, that had to have been just a huge weight off of his shoulders because he'd seen all the problems with his dad early on in his career. He saw everything that arose in Washington, the football team, the name redacted, with his dad, and he had to be sitting there going, I need to make sure whoever the guy is that's the GM is someone that's going to have my back and has the same goal in mind for this team in terms of where we're going to put this team. Home run. It's a home run in my opinion at this point.
Yeah, I like the relationship. I like the things that they are able to do together. I think it's a good working relationship. I think they all get along. And I think that there is a chemistry also with Shanahan and Jed York. They talk about the time that their dad and uncle worked together in the 90s. That was something else he talked about. So him and Jed York have kind of an idea and a symmetry as far as how they view the 49ers and kind of the way that they look at it. So they can look at it the same way because they're aspiring to get to that level.
Yeah.
The fact that he said that his dad, Mike Shanahan, used to tell him that there was only 5 organizations that really tried to win
every year,
and the 49ers were one of them, and you want to be a part of one of those organizations. I think he got the sense from Jed York that that is the type of organization that he wants to run because Jed wants to do what Eddie did. He wants to be a premier team in and out that treats people good, that does the best for his team every single year and has an opportunity to win championships. That's what Kyle does. Kyle wants as well. Once you get all those things aligned, then that's when you get a good organization. They have been hurt by the injuries, which kind of stopped last year, but I think it's going to pick up again because they have the right ideas and thoughts on how to build a team, and they're working together. There's good chemistry, and that's why I like it a lot. As far as another thing that I thought was interesting in the interview was when, I don't know if you heard McVay talking about Jimmy G, and one thing he said was it's not a play problem. Like, Jimmy G plays well, and it's not, they didn't need to make a move from that. It's just an availability issue. That's all it is. And it's what we've been talking about for a while, is that Jimmy G can operate this offense at a high level, and that's not the reason that Kyle needed to go get somebody else. He needed to go get somebody else because he needed somebody that could play at that level or better and be on the field consistently.
Correct, because this team can win a Super Bowl.
Yes.
This team could have won a Super Bowl last year. It would have been very difficult without Nick Bosa, but the team was still good enough to win a Super Bowl last year if you had a quarterback who was functional.
For sure playoffs.
For sure playoffs, but they would have at least... Here's the thing, like you can't sit there and tell me that the Niners don't win the Philly game if Jimmy G's playing. They don't win the Washington game. They don't win that Cowboys game. And there's probably a handful of others off the top of my head that I'm not thinking of right now that they could have won, that they just didn't win late in that season. All of those games would have been and could have been wins if Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard isn't playing.
I agree with that.
So that right there would have put the Niners outside of a wild card spot. They could have been competing still for the division.
Yes.
For the conference and having a top 4 seed in the playoffs. If they had gotten one of those spots, a top 4 or even a wild card, you're going to tell me if they had been that last wild card team in like the Washington football team, that specific game, if you insert that 49ers defense and that 49ers offense versus Tampa Bay, that they couldn't have won that game.
Early in the playoffs, they probably could have.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I'm not going to say they can win. They would have won the championship, but do I think they would have been a playoff team? Yes, I do. Because the whole season, even through the injuries, we were still saying they can make the playoffs as long as some things go well for them.
Which was crazy.
Yeah, it's just the quarterback position was a huge problem for them. And that's why they went in and flipped it up on his head. And now they're sitting in a really premier spot, as you would say, sitting in the catbird seat because they have two good quarterbacks. Anytime that you have two good quarterbacks, then you're sitting well. You're sitting good. And that's what they really needed to do. And I thought it was just nice to hear McVay say it because that is the belief, is that, yes, and really he had no reason to say it now. I mean, it's right. It's very clear that they're going to move on to Trey Lance. Yet McVay felt the need to say it. And just say it in a good way and not overbuild it. If he would have overbuilt it, then I would have known, he's going to try to create some sort of a controversy. That's what he's doing. But he was just very to the point and just real clear on what his thoughts, intentions were on it. And Kyle didn't seem to worry about it at all. Like, he believes the same thing. He believes he can still win with Jimmy G. He just needs Jimmy G on the field because when Jimmy G's on the field, they win football games. When Jimmy G's not on the field, they don't. It's that clear. It's that easy. It's that simple.
It's very simple.
And they need a good quarterback on the field. Now they will have one.
I mean, there's just no reason whatsoever to not make the move that they made and assure that bet. And McVay kind of not only lays it out there, but just makes it very crystal clear for 49ers fans who still think that this is like some big move and they made the move specifically because they have no faith in Jimmy and Jimmy's terrible. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's not that at all. Jimmy is not terrible. This team wins when Jimmy's on the field. This is just to ensure that this team can continue to win if he's not on the field. This is a short and long-term play by the 49ers. Short-term in terms of shoring up your backup quarterback position for right now in case Jimmy goes down, and long-term for you don't have to pay Jimmy a big butt ton of money if he's playing really well. You can let him go, move on, and have this young stud who can do a lot of great things, has a great arm, mobility. You can change the offense up a little bit here in the future. It just ensures long-term success and shores up your short-term success as well.
Yeah, it does. I mean, they're sitting in a position now where even if Jimmy goes down, you still feel like you can win football games. You hope Jimmy's out there and he's playing, but if he's not, Lance is the guy and you're rolling with it. And you have an opportunity to win. Kyle Shanahan has proven that when you give him a rookie quarterback, he can win football games with a rookie quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So he can scheme it up. He can get it going. I think the perfect scenario for 49er fans, and some 49er fans don't want to hear this, is for Jimmy to play well, and when Trey's out there, because Trey's going to get some time as well, for him to play well, and for this team to just tear it up. Some people would rather Jimmy suck. That way he can't play anymore because they really hate Jimmy Garoppolo that much. There's no other reason to say it. Because Jimmy's proven when he's on the field that he can win football games. And that's what you want. You want winners. I don't know why anyone wouldn't want a winner. To quote Singletary, we want winners. I want players who want to win.
Want to win.
That's what I think we're looking at. And we just need to get that to happen.
Megan, shout out for that as well.
Yeah.
Again, a nice little super chat there. We really appreciate that. And hashtag TCC. Cutback Crew is one of the best crews in all of YouTube podcasts, or just podcasts in general. I don't even have to label it. It's just great. You guys are incredible, Cutback Crew. We love you. And there was a lot of other great things, too, that they talked about. One of my favorite things that they talked about was the Green Bay game. And whether or not this was, in fact, the game plan, Kyle Shanahan was the idea to go into Green Bay and just run it down their throats. LaFleur, another guy, him, LaFleur, and McVay all spent a lot of time together, especially towards the end of Mike Shanahan's coaching career. They spent a lot of time together in the same room. And so it's one of those things, right? They started talking about this. They asked Kyle, and Kyle's like, look, yeah, the goal was to run the ball. Did I expect to run it as much as we did? No, but the plan was to always come out and pound the rock.
What's up, Jay Hill? I saw Jay Hill pop in there and say, what's up? What's up?
How you doing, sir?
Yes, 100%. This is what we said. This is a thing that coaches understand because, Alex, you've been around me long enough, is that if a play works, just keep running it until they stop it. Why would you run anything else? That's when you get the dum-dums that sit in the crowd that yell, open up the playbook, coach. I just got 5 or 6 yards on the last play, and you want me to open up? No, this is the playbook right now because they can't stop it. And
they got to open up their playbook first, right? They need to go a little deeper and find something creative in their playbook to stop this. And once they do that, then I'll open mine up.
Defensive coordinator adjusts, then I will gladly adjust to what he's doing, and I will take advantage of it, and we'll whole shot you. So that's the thing, is Kyle Shanahan found that this was working, And Green Bay had no answer for it. When somebody has no answer, you don't do anything else. You just keep rolling with it. I'm glad that we have a coach that does that. There are some coaches and offensive coordinators that change things up just because, I've ran that 4 or 5 times. I can't do that again.
That was my biggest problem as an O coordinator coming in, and you can attest to this because there were times we'd be on the field, right? A drive's going really well. I'm in a rhythm and a flow, and my rhythm and flow is telling me, based on what I'm seeing, to run the same thing. And I literally would get on the mic and be like, Aunt, I got this crazy idea to just keep running this 44 blast right here, just to keep running because it's working. Am I seeing this right? And you're like, you don't need to change anything. Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. It's like, okay, all right, sweet. It was as a young coach, right? Because I was young. I was 17, 18 at the time when I first started.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where having never called an offense before, you start almost psyching yourself out. Yeah. You're second guessing yourself because you're like, this is working really, 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 really stupid well. When is it going to stop working well? And do I need to try and be ahead of it, right? You start talking yourself out of your preparation, what you're seeing, what's working, and what adjustments you're seeing, rather than just trusting what you're seeing and letting yourself go with it.
Yes, a lot of great offense of coordinator stuff, I really learned from not just my dad, but also Bill Walsh. And he got some stuff from Bill Walsh as well. This, I used to script my first 10 plays, that way I could get an idea of how they were going to respond to motion, how they were going to respond to different things. And part of it is just going with what you know. You trust your eyes and go with it. And so that is a big part of it. And that's what I really like to see when I watch. That's why I loved Harbaugh, too. I loved how Harbaugh called offense, except for in the Super Bowl. But I loved it because he would pound people to death, and he would just stick with Frank Gore, and he would just do what he needed to do to win. And I loved it. And I love that about Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan is fantastic in the way he calls offense. Another cool thing about Shanahan, they were starting to talk about the Shanahan tree. And you've got McVay with the Rams, right? He was a quality control coach for Shanahan.
Yep.
You've got LaFleur in Green Bay.
Yep.
You've got now an offensive coordinator with the other LaFleur with the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mike McDaniel. Kyle Shanahan's putting out a tree of coaches now.
And he's still very early on in his head coaching career.
So young.
That's crazy.
The opposite of Bill Walsh, where he got into it a lot older.
Yes.
But he did talk about, too, Alex, is changing some of the offense because they're already stopping the reverses and picking up on the reverses, and the NFL is growing. So, yes, they're 100% made the moves. We talked about this, about what the 49ers run game is going to look like. Boom, stamp it, confirmed by Kyle Shanahan.
Confirmed by, I mean, so that video now is going to be this, I mean, for all, I don't think I've seen anyone else really dive head on into what the 49ers run game could look like this upcoming season. There's been a lot of team people and podcasts and YouTube channels that have put out what makes the Kyle Shanahan run scheme so special, and they talk about some of the horizontal stuff and the things they've done in the past. We're kind of one of the first channels that's hit what the future is going to look like. That video is going to be spot on. And Luke Luna, shout out. I love that right there. Jimmy's going to shut some of these guys up who think he needs to sit down now. Can't wait. We love you, Luke Luna. Thank you for the super chat there, my guy. But no, I mean, this run game now they're making the shift. Shanahan doesn't just confirm it; he puts the nail in it, right? Like this is it now. Teams are getting used to and comfortable seeing the Niners schemes, the reverses, the fly sweep actions, all of that fun stuff. So expect a lot of that this year to be eye candy, window dressing as Ant calls it, and them to be a little bit more of a downhill running team.
Yeah, I think so, and I liked it because without revealing, he revealed, right? It's like, when you have an idea of what somebody's thinking or somebody's doing, you watch the evolution of their offense, and then you see the corresponding moves they make in free agency or through the draft, you get an idea of what they're going to do. And now you see where that running game is going. And the running game is one of my favorite things, and it's really making me excited about this team because of the opportunities that they're going to be able to have. Oh, this is going to be so fun to watch because now teams that used to try to take away that outside zone are going to struggle with the inside vertical run game. And I can't wait for it. And if you want to load up inside and try to stop it there, we're going to get to the edge where he's most certain. If he gets to the second level, it's bye-bye, baby, and all you're going to be seeing is a lot of surfing. Oh, yeah, bye-bye, baby. It's a little bit of a Giants crossover,
Yeah, it's San Francisco, right? It's SF. We like that. We like that a lot. Matt, I'll tell you what, one of the other things that I really enjoyed them talking about was Kyle specifically when he was talking about the quality control stuff. and them going into a little bit in depth what the quality control coach is, and they're the assistant to the assistant.
Oh yeah,
which I found was hilarious and thought was really funny that they went there. But the idea behind McVay as the wonderkin and Shanahan really not being impressed by all the things that McVay knew because of the time that he spent there. And it was one of those things where it wasn't really a jab at McVay, but it was one of those things where it was like, yeah, we know. I've heard it 1,000 times. I already know all this stuff. I can do all of those things too. No one's patting me on the back for it. It really shows the competitive edge that's there, but the mutual respect as well. And I think that's what makes this rivalry now for me much more special with the Rams and what's been going on is the connection this guy has, McVay and Shanahan have with each other. Same thing with Green Bay. I really get excited for these Green Bay games now because there's this extra little dynamic because of how well they know each other. They really want to show out every time they play.
So far, Kyle Shanahan owns them.
Pretty much.
Besides the injury-plagued Green Bay game last year,
It's true.
Kyle Shanahan absolutely owns those teams. So he's almost Belichicking these guys, right? If you are going to be an assistant with Kyle Shanahan, you're going to get owned. And I think that is cool. And that's really fun. But you're right, it does add an extra dimension. I think these games are going to be ratcheted up too in the NFC West. These guys are going to go all out. I had heard some people already clapping back on the CBS 16th best talent. I can't remember who it was. It's someone from ESPN, I think, said that he thought the Niners were one of the top 5 in the NFL as far as talent on their roster. So I think that there are people that just don't see it because they don't want to see it. And when it happens, it's going to be fun to watch.
Oh, yeah, 100%. This team is going to be absolutely incredible. The other revelation that came out was the Niners were, in fact, looking to go after Julio Jones, but only under one circumstance, and that is if the Rams or one of these other teams in the NFC West was going to be making the move for Julio Jones and really looking at him, and the arms race was going to begin. And Shanahan talked about because you have to be one of the best teams in your division, in your little conference, your little division, in order to be a team that's contending and competing for playoffs. But you also have to weigh and balance that with your future, right? And not mortgaging your future for one guy. He goes, however, if the one guy is going to go to the Rams, who are stockpiling weapons, the Cardinals, who are stockpiling, then you're going to have to make a move because you don't want to see him on one of those teams. You prefer he went to the AFC, which is what ended up happening. But if he's not going to go to the AFC, then he better end up on your team because if not, he could end up with one of your competition.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that was why we've talked about the roster's never set. Because those instances happen. And so what it does is it puts the 49ers firmly in every single conversation. And they have to be because they are trying to win championships. They are trying to win football games. They're trying to be elite. And they're not just out here trying to make money. That's not what they're about. They're about winning. And I love that about the 49ers organization. It's about winning. And that's why I like his comments. It was aggressive and it was firm and I liked it. That's what I like seeing from my coach and guys in the front office is I want guys that are aggressive and winning. And they just want to get it done.
Yeah, big shout out to Jason Ellsworth, by the way, for the $10 donate. Sir, the super chat. That's huge right there, man. We really appreciate that. Thank you, my guy. Look, it's just one of those things, right, with this team and this organization that they're consciously aware of what other teams are doing while also putting themselves up and setting themselves up to have the success that they need short term as well as long term. They've done a really good job of that. The Trey move, right? You made a lot of sacrifices in terms of long-term potential draft capital, but you did that because you're now going to have all of the cap space over the next few years to re-sign key players and go out and get key free agents as well.
Yep, that is what you're doing. You're setting yourself up to win now and to win in the future. It is a fun game of teeter-totter in which you have to balance what is going to happen now with what can happen in the future and try to get it all done. Knowing what the teams around you are doing and being constantly involved, I think is a lot of times why you hear the 49ers called about a player because they're trying to find out who's involved. Do we need to get involved and gauge the interest of the parties that have called? And that's why we heard Rams and Seahawks and everyone was involved in Julio Jones. They probably weren't involved. They're just trying to find out who else is involved. It's all a game. And I think once Kyle finds out the Rams aren't involved, and it came out pretty early on that they weren't involved, the Niners backed off as well.
Hey, we really appreciate that, Jason. And no worries, man. No worries. Merch will be there.
Oh, yeah.
And Megan had asked, too, when the next drop of merch will be. Just patience. All All right.
Yeah,
Just
there'll be some more stuff
There'll-
eventually.
There will be
Yeah.
more stuff, and there'll be stuff that leaves the store at certain times, and new stuff will go in. Like we're gonna keep the store rotating, keep it fresh.
Yeah.
But you'll know when the time is right. So just patience.
I would say maybe
Probably-
think that a new drop will be coming around training camp time.
That's probably fair. That's probably
Who knows? You might see some merch just all of a sudden show up on us, and
Hey,
then
who
you'll be
knows?
like, "Oh, when's that coming?"
When's that coming out? There's a good chance
Yeah,
that's probably going to happen.
Probably, yeah.
We'll probably tease things. We enjoy teasing things. One of the last things that not one of the last things talked about, but one of the last things that I think we really wanted to hit on from that conversation they had on that podcast, on the Flying Coach podcast, that was really, really, really not insightful, but just as a fan, makes me feel good to hear them talk about this and for him to bring this up because he compared it to the Atlanta Super Bowl with their left tackle getting the holding
Jake
call
Matthews.
on the 3rd and 12 where they throw the little 5-yard out to Mohamed Sanu. He breaks a tackle, gets a first down, puts him back in field goal range, holding call, boop, puts him right back out of field goal range. They're not able to capitalize and put that field goal through because if they did, that probably seals the game and ends it, and the Patriots' comeback is kiboshed and shot out of a plane, right? Just shot down. Shanahan admits that Bosa not only was held on that 3rd and 15, but was held for a majority of the game and it wasn't called.
Yeah.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you for saying that because now I'm no longer taking crazy pills. If you're seeing it, McVay saw it. McVay agreed with it. He thinks that was also the case. He didn't attest to it.
Right.
Every 49ers fan, what happened this last year against the Chiefs is what everyone in the front office thought was going to happen in the 2019 Super Bowl.
Yeah, before I do that, Kenny, you can go into the link in the description section and click on the merch store. And that's where you can get the shirt that I'm wearing right there and get it sent to you pretty quick.
Yep.
It does take a little bit of time to get it to you, but it happens pretty fast. So you can go ahead and jump onto there. As far as that goes, yes, that was nice to hear because we all have been saying that Nick Bosa was absolutely held. Armstead was getting held. These guys were getting held. And finally, Kyle Shanahan said, look, this is if Jake Matthews was a hold, then my guy was for sure getting held. I mean, he was just open and honest about it. I'm sure the NFL wasn't pleased. You know what? And Kyle Shanahan's like, you already fined me $50,000. Fine me again. I don't care.
Maybe that's why he decided to let this one out. He's like, right, you've already fined me for something stupid and silly. Might as well make it a little bit more.
Maybe we're getting the bad boy of coaching. You know, maybe that's what we're going to get from now on. Maybe Kyle Shanahan's taking... Yeah.
Nick Bosa got held in the Super Bowl.
He did.
And I want to say it out loud now.
And the reason he got held, I seen people trying to say, oh, no, it's within the framework. Listen, once the guy is past you and you're still holding on to that framework like this, it is a hold. If it's inside in front, you've got that plate of that shoulder pad.
The offensive lineman's hips are turned to the sideline. Nick Bosa is
Nick Bosa's past him.
Yes,
yeah,
Nick,
that's the
Nick
point.
Bosa is past him and upfield. The lineman is completely hips turned to the sideline and is almost dragging behind him. I mean, it's obvious. The only reason it's not obvious is if you're a Chiefs fan or you just hate San Francisco. And there's a lot of teams and fans out there that just don't like the 49ers. Fine. If you have an ounce of just football IQ or just decency, fans, because you don't want this kind of stuff happening to your team.
You know what I don't want? I don't want NFL's point of emphasis anymore. Because the point of emphasis on George Kittle's pass interference cost the 49ers a big first half. You know, as far as points go, they at least get a field goal out of that. But because it's the offensive for pushing off, if that wasn't an NFL point of emphasis, they would not have called it because that doesn't get called any other season.
It's true.
So that frustrates me. So NFL, stop with the points of emphasis. They should all be points of emphasis as far as
I got a better idea for you than that. Let's in terms of the points of emphasis. If you simplify your rule book and take away the ability you take away some of the judgment call stuff in terms of like this makes in certain situations it might be a penalty, in other situations just make the rule just plain and basic. If you see these things, you're gonna have to call it, whether or not it's the case or not, right? Like you're gonna have to call certain things because there's certain things you can't do that with, right? Yeah. Hands to the face for defenders. Because how many times have we seen a defender put an arm right in the middle of a guy's chest plate to get distance as he's coming around the edge, and the tackle decides to throw his head up, and the line judge behind decides to throw the flag,
Yeah.
or the umpire behind throws a flag. There are just certain things that they have to clean up in terms of who can make certain types of calls, because those two officials behind are not going to be able to see things like that. Holding, yes. Things in the pocket, yes. Chop blocks, yes. Those types of things they're going to be able to see, but they got to get better in terms of how. I've said it before. You've said it before. Pat McAfee talked about this a lot. That AFL cam, the AFL camera, the above camera shot with the judge above who
The sky judge.
the sky judge, that is something the NFL needs to look into, because it can clean up a lot of these poor judgment calls that can turn tides and momentums of games.
Yes, you're right. But unfortunately in the NFL, when it comes to calls, almost all of them are judgment calls.
Almost all of them.
Yeah,
Yes.
and so you're going to be working in shades of gray. And I think the problem that the refs need to have, or that we have with refs, is they need to have a more consistency on how things are handled. This is one of the things that used to frustrate me the most, is from one crew to the next, you have a different way of approaching it, right? So one crew is, you know that these guys are very heavy on the holding. If you get outside the framework, automatically it's a hold. But with the next one, you can get outside the framework and get away with it. You can throw someone down and get away with it. What I think is there needs to be a consistency from crew to crew on what is a penalty and what is not. That would clear up a little bit of the issues. But I think there's just so much gray area, it's hard to figure out exactly how these referees should call games. Yes, they could kind of uncomplicate some of the rules. I think you're right. But I don't know how much they can take out the element of human error. I think that is a real thing.
That is probably an impossibility.
Yeah.
Removing human error. And listen, I think most fans, rational, reasonable fans, can live with human.
Can you say fans and rational and reasonable in the same?
Probably not.
I mean, it's literally fanatic.
Fanatic, yeah. So just fan. All right, so we'll take that.
Hi, Matt.
What's up, Matt? Matthew, how you doing, sir? It's one of those things, right, where the human error is always going to be there.
Yeah.
You have to learn to deal with that, but consistency. As a coach, I can tell you, coaching high school basketball, that was my big thing with an officiating crew. I'm not going to see the same way the game the same way as you. I know that most of the time. But going into a game, we have our game plan right. We have the way we want to do things, the way I want us to play, the things I want us to do, whether that was football, basketball, no matter what. But I know something's not going to go the way I want. As long as you're consistent as a crew, it's fine, because I can adjust.
Right.
I can adjust what I need to do. I can adjust the game plan. I can adjust my team. We can fit whatever. We can do whatever we need to do. But the minute something gets called one drive or one possession and not the next, and the only thing that has changed is how many points have been put up on the board or who has momentum, I start to lose my mind. As a coach, I would lose my mind. As a player, it drove me crazy. And as a fan, it's even more infuriating, because I have to sit there and know that there's literally nothing I can do.
Yeah.
I can't coach the team different, right? I can't talk to the officials. All I can do is type, tweet, or come on the podcast and rant. That's it. I have no actual impact. So it drives me up a freaking wall. Consistency has to be the most important thing for officials.
It does. And that is why a lot of times you get these people that reach out and say, the NFL cheats. The NFL is scripted. Because every time that a team starts getting away with the game, you see weird calls happen. You know, it's like, oh, this is a primetime game. They don't want to blow out. And that is what happens. All of a sudden, the same thing that was a penalty in quarter one is not a penalty in quarter three, or something that wasn't a penalty in quarter one becomes a penalty in quarter three, depending on the score and circumstances of the game. And that is 100% wrong. That's why I'm saying we need consistency. I think you're right. We could get more black and white on some of the rules. But I think some of them are always going to be judgment. And that's just, unfortunately, the way it's going to be work.
PIs.
Yeah.
Going to be judgment most of the time, right? A lot of those, the hits against a defensive player is going to be judgment, right? Because you might be an official who looks at it and goes, full speed across the middle, guy catches high, tries to go low. He tries to go low thinking the guy's high and he hits him, and so you don't throw the flag. And then you'll see some guys who, if the head snaps back just a little bit too far, just throwing the flag out immediately. Get it out there. That's nope, not allowed.
Yeah.
Right. The hit on Breeze last year that broke like half of his body, being called a penalty when it was about the cleanest hit that you could possibly make on a person in today's NFL. Again, judgment call, right?
Yeah.
Most people looked at that and were like, yeah, that's not a penalty. But that official in that moment was like, oh my God, Drew Brees is fragile. You can't do that. Flag. So it's always going to be tough and difficult, but there are some things that you can simplify. And that's the thing, right? Is finding the things that you can simplify, simplifying them so that officials can become more consistent and focus on the things that aren't simplified, the complex stuff. The less complex rules and judgment calls that you give them, the easier their job becomes.
You brought up earlier when you were talking about offensive coordinator that you sometimes had to think about, oh, should I keep doing this? Like you would second guess yourself. I think NFL referees do this as far as like, I haven't made a call in a while. I better do something. I missed something. I better call something. And they jump the gun and they try to find something that's not there. I think this happens way too consistently. It's like, oh, I haven't been involved. And sometimes they think they need to see themselves on TV. Like, hey, I never been on TV before, and they just put themselves out there. And I think that is a real problem. The best officials are the ones you rarely see. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear from you. When you need to make a call, make it. And then the rest of the time, just let these guys play football. That's what we want to watch. The worst games to watch are the ones where you get like 10 penalties in a row. It's like, all right, guys, just chill out now, okay? And the other thing I hate, makeup calls.
Oh.
I hate it. Oh, 15-yard penalty for pass interference. Going this way. Oh, we'll make it up with an offensive holding or something stupid. It's frustrating to me.
Makeup calls are I can't say it. We'll get demonetized. I can't say it. It's awful. Look, makeup calls are my least favorite aspect of any type of sport.
Yeah.
Just in general, because it's an admittance that you screwed up while also affecting you're negatively penalizing an opponent or another team for your screw up. You're actually not making anything up. You're penalizing or punishing someone for a mistake that you made. So it's the opposite of what accountability would be. It's trying to relieve yourself of guilt or mistake. I made a mistake. You're trying to relieve yourself of that by giving someone else a freebie, right? I'm a big accountability person. That's like the thing I preach the most, right? Whether it's me here on the podcast, whether it's real life, like when I coach to my kids, you need to be accountable for the things you do and the things you say and the mistakes that you make, right? Because if you're accountable for those things, you won't make them again.
True.
A makeup call is the exact opposite. Oh, well, you know what? I screwed up. We'll just give you the 10 yards back. It's fine. It's fine. Who's going to care, right? At least I made up for it. As a fan, when you're watching and you get that call against you and then you get the makeup call right back, you feel better. But the problem I have is now there's no incentive to hold these officials accountable for making bad calls.
That's
true.
You
make a bad call and give it right back to the other team. What's going to happen, right? Well, the next play that happened, so it ended up being a wash. And it's like, well, no, because that guy can still do the same exact thing again.
True. Yeah, I think, all right, everyone start jumping in and giving questions, because I am definitely ready for some questions.
Some Q&A.
Q&A, I think so.
Absolutely.
I mean, we'll keep conversing along the way, but
absolutely,
we might as well just go ahead and get Q&A going.
Open the Q&A up.
Yeah.
But no, Gary, you're right. Humans are human.
Yeah,
they always will be.
Always, 100%. They'll always be human. And that is part of the game. I mean, it has to be, because right now you have 22 players on the field. And for a play to work, either 11 guys have to do everything right. And that means they beat 11 guys and somebody on the other side did something wrong. So in every single play, somebody did something wrong. It's just inevitable. It has to happen. And that's just the way it is. That's football.
Very rarely do you see the 11-on-11 situation in which a play just, like a defense breaks up a pass or something where you saw the offense, all 11 guys did everything perfect and all 11 guys on defense did everything perfect. And that's why the play's just a stalemate, right? It was the right call and the right call. That very rarely happens. Even when a defense makes a D coordinator makes a great play call and the offensive coordinator makes a great play call and everyone just plays it, like something goes wrong, right? A receiver slips on a route. Got a little too deep on his yardage. Lineman doesn't pick up the correct stunt. Something always happens.
Yeah. We're starting to get some questions.
I like it. Fines for bad calls.
I think if you fall below a certain threshold, maybe you should be starting to get fined. I know they do keep track of, things they consider questionable or stuff. So you get below a certain threshold, yes.
Okay. I agree with you there. I think if you set a threshold, that's a good way to go about it. Megan, did you guys hear about the former Niner player that passed away?
Yes, Greg Clark passed away, former tight end. Unfortunately, it looks like he took his own life, so that's too
Really
bad.
sad.
I do remember him as a player. I was a fan of his. I thought he was a good player. So condolences to his family and hope that they can get through this time. It's never easy. It just leaves so many tough questions. I hope no family ever has to deal with this. So.
No, that's awful. And shout out to his family, and we wish you well, and hope that you guys are able to console each other and find peace during this time.
That's definitely.
Tough. That's definitely tough. Matt had asked, where is it? There it is. Question for Ant, specifically for you. Is Alex a better passer or punter/kicker, past or present?
I'm going to have to go with punter in the past because he got league honors for that. Sure. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that. That just seems like the easiest answer. And
it's the right answer.
It is the right answer. So I'm going to go with that.
Mm-hmm.
I did see Caleb said, what about cyborgs?
What about him?
Oh, he's saying,
to make calls?
Yeah. I mean.
No.
We don't need like some AI situation?
No.
Okay.
I don't want that. And the reason I don't want it is because you then put the onus on the league to set the parameters for what is and is not things, and they can do some funky, weird stuff with that. Oh. It's the same reason why, I haven't watched a lot of baseball this year, but it's the same reason why I don't want preset strike zones.
Yeah.
Because I don't want a computer I don't want the league determining what a strike, what is a strike and what. I'd rather you hire someone that gets trained, that's a professional, that it's their job to do that. And again, right? There's they're getting paid by the league, right? So they can just be a crony. They're still a human being. They're not forced to do that. If they do that, that's their choice, right? And AI has no choice. It's going to be exactly that.
Yep.
100%. They find coaches and players. Why not officials? From Gary.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different because players and coaches make a lot more money than officials. Most officials still have another job that they work. Plus, coaches and players. I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this, but I think officials have a lot that they're looking at, and they can make mistakes. I believe if it's egregious and continuously egregious, that they should be dealt with, but I think everyone should be able to make a bad call. And you got to remember, a coach makes bad calls during a game, but isn't fined for it.
True. I mean, it's true. The difference here, David, with tennis and lines and the NFL is that a line is very set and determined in terms of when a ball hits or doesn't hit a line, right? And also, they don't actually use that to make the call. They still have a line judge. It's just the players have a challenge in which they can use the software, the system that they have to see how close it was. And very rarely do you see a ball that clearly hit the line that someone challenges. It's one of those ones where you have like 130 mile an hour serve rifling by at him. And live, it looks like it didn't hit the line or it did hit the line. It looks like one of the things. And then you pull the replay up in the computer and it shows it like caught the baby corner toe of the line. And it's like, okay, that was a great challenge.
Well, and the ball is moving kind of fast.
It's moving pretty quick. Monica with a great question to the both of us: pancakes or waffles?
It depends on what pancakes and what waffles. And I would probably I'd probably come in with the run-in and say French toast.
The steel jam, boys. It's waffles for me because of the pockets.
More
extra syrup, extra peanut butter on there.
If you dig a hole in the pancakes, and then you fill up the middle.
Yeah, but then it looks ugly.
Who cares about looks? It's good.
Gordon Ramsay's rolling over in his bed right now.
Of course, then I have a blood pressure issue after that.
That's true. That's true. Mark Graves asked too, did you guys go to the same school?
No.
We did not go to the same school.
Yeah.
In fact, Ant went to the Crosstown Rival.
I did.
And was coaching freshman football at the school, at my high school, when I was finishing up my playing career there.
That is true.
And while I was still in high school, I was helping coach the Pop Warner team. And senior year of high school, I was at freshman football practices and games.
Yeah.
On the sidelines, coaching up the receivers. That was fun.
Yes, that is true. That was our first full interaction.
It was. Good times.
It was good times.
Good times. Do you think Harry is a better option than Sanu? Because Luke does not, for the red zone born role you were talking about.
I'm not sure. You know what I mean? I think I'm not sure right now. One thing I will know is that if Sanu and Jawan Jennings look good right now, there's no reason for them to bring in a similar player.
True.
The only way you're bringing him in is if you think he's better than them. It depends on what Sanu we're getting, but I don't see any speed. If N'Keal Harry was fast, if he was a legit 4-5 Debo Samuel guy, I would say, yes, let's do it. But I don't see that speed when I watch the film.
No, it's one of those things with Sanu, not Sanu, but with N'Keal Harry is there just hasn't been a lot. Whether it's short down situations, whether it's red zone situations, whether it's open field situations with him, he just hasn't shown a lot. He can't really get separation. Watching his film right now is like watching Kevin White film. You think you feel like there should be more going on, and there's just not.
Yeah,
and it's just one of those things. It's like, okay, well, is it health? Is it scheme? Like, is it just him? What is it? Because you're expecting way more than what you're getting, and it's just not there. And Kevin White's not a big deal for us right now because he's on a futures deal. That's not the case right now with a guy like N'Keal Harry. If you trade for him, you're trading for a guy and you're paying him his rookie pay scale first round pick numbers and money.
Yeah.
It's just tough, man. It's tough.
It just all depends on if you can get him for a 7th round pick. I think if you can get him with a 7th round pick, you just bring him in, let him compete. $1.6 million, not a big deal.
It's not the end of the world.
No,
especially if he's cut. Matt Burgos, what are the odds? What odds would it take for you to throw any amount of money on the Lions over the Niners week 1?
I would say that if Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance are both injured, I will put money on the Lions to win.
That's the only way?
That's the only way.
What if Vegas came out and gave ridiculous odds, like 1,000,000 to 1, and you could drop $10 on the Lions, and if they somehow happen to win it, you'd be rich for life?
I know I'm going to lose $10.
Yikes!
And I could go buy some delicious French toast.
That's true. You could at pretty much any chain food store out there in the country. Chain food stores. This could be an ad insert slot for you right here. So
I don't need bread right now, so maybe not.
I got you. I'll take it.
All right, you could eat the bread.
Yeah, I still eat all the carbs. Yeah. All the carbs. Megan, what? I thought you guys did. No, we did not go to the same high school.
No.
Mm-mm. Do you think Rodgers will show up to training camp? Has there been any news about that? Also, do you see Watkins playing?
I just seen him say no. He doesn't know yet. I don't know.
He just won the match with Bryson DeChambeau. He's focused on his golf career.
He'll show up. He'll show up because he doesn't want to get fined. He wants to make the money. And then he knows what's inevitably going to happen. He's going to be gone from there after the season.
I got a question. Is there any chance that he shows up and it's like, oh, I tweaked my hammy or my back playing golf on the match, and I just need to take a couple weeks? And I would say that's probably a thing. He
won't say it's from golf. He'll go out there and throw one pass and be like, oh,
it's a
big ouchie.
That doesn't feel too great.
To be honest with you, I don't think he does a whole lot of practice anyways.
Especially in training camp.
I'm guessing he goes out there and just does what he normally does and is chill, and he just relaxes and discount double checks a couple times and all's good.
Discount double checks. Yeah. I love it. I love to see it. Do we see Watkins playing? No. I don't see him making the roster and playing. No. Is he going to play in preseason? Yeah, probably.
Well, they would have to carry him because they can't put him on injured reserve or anything like that. He's not going to be on the commissioner's list, so they will have to carry him on the roster. Because if they try to put him on IR, and someone's going to pick him up. So
yeah,
I guess he wouldn't play. But geez, that's a weird situation.
That is.
Yeah, I'm glad the Niners aren't in it.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Who is going to be the best rushing team this year, Niners or Ravens?
49ers.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Well,
they made all the moves, right? You made the adjustment to switch to an inside run game. You have the big offensive lineman you drafted. You add Trey Sermon to the mix. Healthy Raheem Mostert coming back into the fold. You went out and added Wayne Gallman, who can do a lot of different things, both as a pass catcher and a runner, especially on the inside zones. We've seen he has a lot of success there. All signs point to yes. And the addition of Trey Lance plus Jalen Hurd. Let's not forget about that.
Yep. And the Ravens don't have Ingram anymore.
Nope.
So it's Dobbins and it's the quarterback, and they all know the quarterback can't throw. So
shots fired on the 49ers.
Is it?
Cutback.
I thought that was
it's-
actually known.
It's not shots fired in the sense. Some people still want to argue about that, about whether or not Lamar Jackson can throw the ball effectively as a quarterback.
All I know is the passing offense looked better with Chase McSorley while he was in there for a little bit. And then all of a sudden somebody comes back from a little poo-poo break and he makes a pass and everyone's like, oh, he's the best ever.
Oh, he completed that pass because he scrambled and drew 3 guys to his.
Well, that's because he just,
play broke down. He got out of the pocket. He started to run upfield a little bit. 4 guys converged and he dumped the ball over the top.
It was a poo-poo break. I get it.
He looked better afterwards.
I get it.
I'm glad he took the dump.
He could have Schlereth it and just become stink, just poop your pants.
Can you imagine that, dude?
Yeah.
Can you absolutely imagine that?
And by the way, I did see they asked if I ever took you out as punter. No, I never actually coached Alex.
Nope. You almost did.
Yeah,
you almost did.
I almost did.
I left the year before.
Yeah,
I would have come up. He was coaching. You were coaching Bobcats, youth football.
Yeah.
And he was coaching the highest level, the oldest kids.
Yeah.
And I was a year below that. I was playing. I forget what they called it at that time. But I was playing there, and then the next year would have been the year for me to go up and play with your team. And I jumped ship with Cody Vaz over to the Junior Rams because I was teasing the idea of playing at St. Mary's.
Yeah. Yeah. We won a championship.
You did. Cody and I did not win a championship because Cody wasn't starting. But when Cody did start...
This makes no sense.
Tell me about it, man, because when he did start, it was like 15 catch games for like 175 yards and 2 tutties. It was great. Every time Cody played, I tore it up. Every time Cody wasn't in the game.
And for those of you who don't know who Cody is, Cody Vaz played for Oregon State.
Yes.
And in fact, almost led them
to a bowl game.
Yeah. So he was actually a legit quarterback talent. And Alex was his number 1 receiver for a lot of years.
We were best friends growing up as youngsters. We played flag football together. We both went into Pop Warner football at the same time to the Bobcats at first because the idea was Cody was going to play quarterback and I was going to be the wideout. And then that didn't happen because of politics. And then
what politics?
Crazy,
no
dude.
Way.
In Pop Warner football. And so then we shipped over to St. Mary's because Cody was going to go to St. Mary's. He probably wasn't going to go to Tokay or stay locally. He lived in Lodi. So we jumped ship and then got to St. Mary's and politics. Politics ruined it again.
Yeah.
We tore it up in flag football together. When he played with the Bobcats, we tore it up. And same thing. Whenever we got over to the Junior Rams, whenever Cody was in, it was just glorious domination.
Matt did say, is there any chance he can get on the stream if the Lions win? I say win or lose, Matt comes on the stream to talk Lions.
Fair. We like it.
Yeah.
100%. We'll probably just bring you on early and just do a thing before.
I think so.
Yeah.
And
then bring you on after.
Yeah. I think that'll be fun.
That'll be a lot of fun.
It's a legit Lions guy. So, I mean.
One of the few that I know in this area.
For sure.
One of the very few I know in this area. Alex True, we have Kevin White. If we can make someone work like Harry, we already have a guy like that in White. I don't think we need to have both. Maybe we trade White for Harry, equal value.
I don't think anyone is taking Kevin White in a trade.
No.
I think if we tried to trade him to Saskatchewan, they wouldn't take him.
Saskatchewan. Freaking Saskatchewan. I love how you went there, man. That's great. That's freaking fantastic. What is the age difference between the two of us? We don't divulge age on this podcast. We don't age.
I don't know. How old are you?
The number.
Yeah, I think we're like 6 or 7 years apart.
Might be.
Yeah.
30.
No, 8 years apart.
Oh, dang. I didn't think it was 8.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was 8. It doesn't feel 8.
It doesn't feel like 8, but I lived through the glory days of the Niners, and you didn't, so that makes sense.
No, I didn't get to see any of the glory days.
Yeah.
The Niners, I got actually 1 Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's all I got was 1 Super Bowl. All the videos of Pop Warner football, little Alex is, oh gosh. Okay, well, that's true. It is pretty cute.
Yeah, and he's also bigger than everyone else in flag football.
That's true.
The flag football ones,
Huge.
he's a giant compared to everyone else. So.
It's very true. I don't remember it that way. I remember being the same size as everybody else. And then we watch the videos back, and I'm like, what the frick?
And I was smaller than everyone else.
Yeah, it was funny. We put yours on, and it was like, oh, look, Anthony's so cute. And then we put mine on. It's like, dude, what?
Yeah, El Gigante over here.
It was the sad part. I was on the younger side of the age group. It was 10 and 11, and I was 10, and I literally turned 10 like the second week of the flag football season. So I was 9 when it started.
I was the youngest dude in the league.
Yeah.
And they went by grades. So I was playing with 4th through 6th graders, and I was like 8 or 9.
Jeez Louise, dude.
Or 7. I don't know. I was young.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's nuts. The Lions have cool jerseys from Gary. Hey, they're pretty cool. Except for their Thanksgiving ones. I'm not as big a fan
I'm
of
not
those.
a fan of those either.
Matt, how do you feel about those? We want to know.
Yeah.
You may have lived in the glory days, but I lived in the Mike Nolan days, so who's the real winner?
Well, I'll tell you, if you live through the Mike Nolan days, you have an appreciation for any time they actually win.
It's true.
If you grew up in the 80s like me and the 49ers won all the time, you're kind of spoiled to the fact that you want the Niners. Because every year the Niners were in it.
Yeah.
I mean, just like I saw a poll that was on Twitter this week. I think Al Sacco put it up, and it was all about what was the most painful loss you saw the 49ers take, and it was like 2011 NFC Championship, 2012 Super Bowl, 2019 Super Bowl, all these ones. And you know what I went to? 1990 NFC Championship game against the Giants. Joe Montana gets hurt. Roger Craig fumbles. The three-peat goes away. That is the one that killed me, and that's how you know how old I am.
Yeah, that's a good.
Also, runner-up would probably be like 1987 playoff loss to the Vikings. That also hurt very much.
Yeah.
1983 loss. You won't remember this because you weren't even alive.
Nope.
But to the Washington, formerly known, the Redacteds.
The Redacteds.
And the Joe Theismann, just hated it.
I remember. Oh well, I don't remember it in terms of back. But I've watched the film. Yeah, it's rough, man. Yeah. It's rough.
I still hope Theismann's leg gets injured in those games.
It's really bad. It's not good. And gotta move on.
I'm not serious, but
I know. Oh man, it's one of those things, right? Where Niners fans, especially today's Niners fans, don't have some have an appreciation, right? I would say the OG Niner fans have an appreciation for what this team is and the franchise and the history of this organization. A lot of newer, younger fans only know about the last 20 years or so of San Francisco. They know of the early struggles in the late 2000s to the rise and growth of Harbaugh to the fall, right? And the real quick descendants to rock bottom from Super Bowl and NFC Championship games, 3 straight, to being one of the worst teams in the league in what seemed like a matter of minutes. And then the slow build back up with Shanahan that has happened. And then once we got the base established, the building went up really quick. We got right back to a Super Bowl. So a lot of teams don't have an appreciation for anything past that or even earlier than that, mid-90s, right? Even, early 90s, potentially even late 90s. I've talked to some fans who, you try and talk about 95, 96, 97, 98. Just after Young is, in the twilight, right after that, leading up into the early 2000s where Young drops off and Garcia comes in and takes over with Mariucci and all of that. They're fans who just, those years are like a wash for them.
Yeah.
They don't know about them. And but those are, for me growing up, the Mariucci days are the days that I remember the most because it was the stuff I was most entrenched in. I was at training camps. I met Steve Mariucci. I talked to Steve Mariucci. Talked to Jeff Garcia, autograph. Interview conversation with Steve Young when I was a kid. Like, those are the years that I remember fondly and the most because I was the most ingrained. But what made me love 49ers football so much wasn't those years. It was everything I learned about as a kid growing up from my dad, who was a huge 49ers fan.
Yeah.
And the history of the San Francisco 49ers and Walsh and Seifert and the revolutionary West Coast offense and what it was and what it meant and what it did. I remember in 8th grade, I had to give a presentation on, I forget what it was. It was a research project. And I wasn't allowed to do anything based on a team that I was familiar with. So I wasn't allowed to do something on the 49ers. It had to be something you were unfamiliar with. But I was so entrenched in football because of my love of the 49ers and the West Coast offense. I became a very big fan of June Jones and the run and shoot offense.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's what I did. That's what I did my report on. And then very quickly became a Hawaii fan and Colt Brennan.
I bet.
You remember this?
Yeah, Jerry Glanville's out there as well. Yeah,
100%. It was one of those things, right? Like my love for San Francisco and just the history of the 49ers is what got me heavily involved into football and what made me such a student of the game. I wanted to know what I was watching. I didn't want to just watch it and be like talking out my behind, right? Like, oh, they need to run the ball up the middle here. It's like, no, let's look at the front. What's the scheme?
Yeah.
What are they facing? Are they showing blitz? Are we reading blitz here? What's the coverage? Is there a run blitz on? Is there a stunt happening? And just trying to figure out what's the best case scenario here. And then understanding also, too, on dropbacks, why did they run route combinations? Why was footwork so important to Bill Walsh? Because it was. I mean,
it was.
Montana and Young talked about it all the time, that with Bill Walsh, it was, they drill it in practice. At this step, you should be here.
Yeah.
At this step, you're here. After your 5th step, when he's in the middle on his first break on the in route, you should have your hitch. And then you should be taking your first step up in the pocket, and he should be here, right? It was all mapped out to a science.
Yeah.
At a time where most offenses weren't that complex.
It was 3-step and a hitch. It was 5-step and a hitch. 7-step and a hitch. It was a waggle. Everything was down to a T when you were looking at the offense. And I think fans have went through kind of different stages, right? You had the reason that the 49er fans in the 80s, especially the ones that were middle-aged, really appreciated it was they went through the 70s. The 70s were so rough with all the losses. They had good football teams and they still lost to the Cowboys. So getting over the hump in the 80s was so huge. And then that is where you get the pain in the 90s. For everyone that was a Niner fan in the 80s, you get the pain in the 90s where you can't beat the Cowboys, you can't beat the Packers. That's why we got the 1 year where Steve Young did it in 1994, with that great team. And that was kind of our saving grace of the 90s because we didn't get that in the 70s. Then when you got into the 2000s, it was just like it went from decent and good to absolutely awful. And that carried up until Harbaugh got there. Harbaugh turned everything around. We got optimism. We picked up a lot of new fans. There was a certain attitude about the 49ers again. And then it went away. And then Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have brought it back. And that's why there's that excitement again. So there's all these stages. But we have all these people that were born after 1994 that have never seen the 49ers win a championship. And unfortunately, I feel sorry for them, but I will say this. Those people at least has never had to feel the pain of winning championships, knowing what it feels like, and then not being able to get back. Because it is a little bit of a different aspect.
And not just like not get back for a few years, but not be good for a couple of decades. Like that's been one of the hardest things for me is I grew up at the very end of the greatness. So I got the last little taste of it, and then all the talk of it, and then nothing but despair.
Yeah.
Since up until Harbaugh came in. Harbaugh was like that bright spot where it's like, we're back. Like we're back. That's what it felt like. We're back, baby. Like,
that's exactly what it felt like.
This is what it was. And then to see it crumble so quickly and the window just basically get shut in your face. When we fired Harbaugh and moved on and the meat sweats got gosh darn meat sweats. The meat sweats got brought in. I remember looking at my brother and looking at him and being like, we're going to suck for the next 10 years. And he looked at me and he's like, how can you know that? And I was like, we spent so much, like we were so great for so long. As a part of that though was coaching and front office. We don't have that right now. The front office is in such disarray. Ownership right now is in such disarray. We're not going to have that until we get that thing fixed. I looked at my brother, I was like, this team is never going to be great. Like we won't be great. We may be rebuilding for the next decade. Brother's like, no, there's no way. And I was like, if the front office doesn't get straightened out, there's no coach in the world is going to save us until it fixes, until a tide shifts somewhere.
Yeah.
And Jed York shifted real quickly after everything that happened with Harbaugh, everything that happened with Thomasula, everything that happened with Chip Kelly. He shifted quick. It took about 3 years and he figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. They had a couple bad hires there, but I blame the GM more than I blame the front office.
100%. York put his faith in the wrong person. And
yes.
Unfortunately, that person.
Well, and Harbaugh did a very good job of alienating Jed York.
I mean, that's what Harbaugh does best.
Harbaugh has a hard time staying in one position. I was very fortunate to go to Harbaugh's last game in San Francisco. I enjoyed it. That was kind of a cool thing. So I will do that. Brad Jones says, "Did you fellas see?"
Florio telling Shanny he should stop talking.
Yeah, and I did see the headline. I did not watch the video because I've kind of distanced myself from Florio a little bit, just like I've distanced myself from the other one. So I did not see it, but I know what he's doing. He's smart. If he can create some sort of controversy with Kyle Shanahan, he'll get clicks. He knows that's what works. So that's what he's doing. He's just doing exactly what another Bay Area guy does all the time. Somebody that used to write for the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. So that's what they do. They like to pick these little fights because then it triggers people, right? So either we get a response like us who would be frustrated to listen to it, or you get the people that absolutely agree with them. Either way, he gets a response, gets views, makes money. That's what it's about.
Good job, Florio.
Yeah.
Good job. I did enjoy Shanahan in the Flying Coach podcast talking about the types of reporters he liked and giving Peter some credit, right, for the things that he did with Good Morning Football and everything he did on that program when he was breaking down Mac Jones and why he was making his points. Kyle and McVay both said, that's the thing I liked about you and what you did was that you didn't just have a take. You backed it up. You supported it. You did your research. You did all your prep work, right? You came at it with logic, basically reasoning. It was a sound argument to make for Mac Jones. And when you turned out to be wrong, you ate it.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get pissy and throw a fit and talk about how I'm wrong. He's like, those are the type of, you're the type of reporter that I like. The other one's not so much.
Yeah.
Throwing heavy amounts of shade on basically all of Bay Area media right now.
And guess what is going to happen? Kyle knows what's going to happen when Jimmy Garoppolo is the starting quarterback week 1. It is not going to be that all these people are wrong. Kyle Shanahan made the wrong decision.
Yeah,
you just
100%.
wait. It's Kyle's fault. He doesn't have the guts to go with the young guy. And it's going to all blow up in his face eventually. And they're all going to sit there and wait and hope that it happens. And it's not going to happen because Kyle Shanahan is going to make the right decision. Whether that is Jimmy Garoppolo, which I believe it will be because the understanding of the offense, let Trey Lance, get his feet underneath him and get everything together.
I feel more confident now more than ever after hearing that podcast that Jimmy's the starting quarterback. Because hearing the way McVay talked, just the way McVay talked about not Kyle Shanahan, but Shanahan's system and the way Jimmy runs it, made me think that they've had conversations. Because they're close. They've had conversations. And if it wasn't going to be another veteran, then it was going to be Jimmy this year and whatever quarterback they went out and got. I also enjoyed the fact that McVay basically let everyone know in 49ers land and just the league, nobody had an idea of what Kyle Shanahan was doing because McVay thought it was Pitts.
He did.
McVay thought it was Pitts, and the Atlanta Falcons thought it was Pitts.
Yeah.
They thought it was Pitts up until it wasn't.
Yeah.
So that's kudos to Kyle Shanahan. He also talked about that a little bit, right? That he hadn't made up his mind, and once he finally made up his mind that it was going to be Trey Lance at 3, he started looking at what people were saying and was like, oh, the Mac Jones stuff is kind of getting out of hand a little bit. I thought that was hilarious.
Dude, he's like looking over there as like there's a giant fire happening. He's like, wow, this got out of hand.
What's happening over there?
What?
All for Mac Jones, really? Man, that's crazy. I didn't even say anything.
I think the people cannot handle the silence. And anyone that tells him to shut up, just why? Kyle can do what he wants. He can say what he wants. And you don't think anything he says he hasn't already talked to Jimmy Garoppolo about?
Correct.
Jimmy Garoppolo knows about Stafford. He knows about Trey Lance. All of it. He is completely aware because they're transparent. That's why players like playing for the 49ers organization.
They're honest.
Yes.
They're honest, right?
It
Kyle
is.
said it. Kyle said it best in the interview in which he accidentally said, I don't even know if Jimmy will be alive on Sunday. Because the truth of the matter is you don't know.
Okay, I did see that
You're talking about the
Gary.
Roger Craig or Kyle Juszczyk.
Okay, are we talking Roger Craig fullback Roger Craig up until 87, or are we talking about Roger Craig tailback Roger Craig from 88 on?
That's the.
Or are we talking about complete career? We're including fullback, we're including tailback, like the whole thing. We have to break that in.
You got to clarify. Give us some clarification.
And I see
here,
Mark
Gary.
Graves is saying Kyle versus Rathman, which is a great comparison. They are used differently. Now, if you're going to go over skill set wise, Kyle Juszczyk has a bigger skill set than Tom Rathman, but Tom Rathman was used at a way bigger level than Kyle Juszczyk. Tom Rathman is not as good a blocker as Kyle Juszczyk, but Kyle Juszczyk is asked to do more things than Tom Rathman. I think if you put Kyle Juszczyk in the 49ers offense in the 80s, he would have had even better numbers than Tom Rathman, but I think Rathman would be successful in this system too. So it's close. I think Juszczyk overall is a better player skill set wise, but I think Rathman actually produced at a higher level because he was used better.
Is it fair to say that in terms of production fullback in a system, Rathman was better, but Kyle Juszczyk is a better overall football player?
Yeah, and some of it too, Alex, is because Rathman would catch 50 or 60 passes.
He would.
And Kyle Juszczyk doesn't get those kind of opportunities. You know what I mean? So it's kind of hard to compare.
True. Monica, we do need to change that. In fact, I was supposed to change it tonight. I made a boo-boo error. I'll fix it for the next one.
And then I see Gary says fullback to fullback. If I was going to compare him fullback to fullback, I'm taking Roger Craig. Because Roger Craig had a 1,000 season as a fullback.
It's true.
No other fullback has done that.
Nope.
And there's only been 2 other running backs that have done that, LaDainian Tomlinson and Christian McCaffrey. So he's in that rare era, and he did it in 1985.
Before the pass game was that big of a deal for running backs.
Think about how important the 49ers fullback was in the 49ers offense in the 80s. That's what we talk about. Just using Kyle Juszczyk a little bit more. Can we get more Juszczyk? Please.
A little more juice. Just a little more juice.
Yeah, just a little bit more juice.
Look, listen, the Niners have a lot of flavors, right? A lot of things you can do. I'm just saying it would be nice to not run out of juice, early in the season. Have a lot of
Think about that for Roger Craig. He has 1,000 yards receiving, 1,000 yards rushing.
It's a lot.
And he blocks for Wendell Tyler most of the game. That guy was on the field over 90% of the snaps.
It's a lot of snaps.
Unheard of.
At that time, yeah.
Crazy use for a fullback.
Well, you wouldn't see that in today's NFL.
No, they wouldn't hold up.
Nope. They would break down.
Roger Craig was built different. What did he miss, like 1 game in 11 seasons?
Something stupid like that.
He's built crazy.
He is built really crazy.
Yeah, he's another one of those guys that used to run the hill with Jerry,
Dude, that hill, I remember when I first found out about that hill, and I told my mom about it. Very first time I told her about the hill. Every 4th of July, we go up to Clear Lake, where my grandparents had a nice little house on the lake.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what was there? Big fat hill. After that story and how enamored I was with the story, guess who ran that hill every summer for like a week straight? At that point, I wished I didn't know about the hill and hadn't said something to my mom, because my mom heard that and was like, ooh, this is a great way to get you out and be active. Let's run this hill like Jerry. You can run the hill like Jerry, son. Yeah. I was like, yeah, let's do that. And until you ran the hill, and I'm like, this dude's a psychopath.
And Mark, I said LaDainian Tomlinson, but it should have been Marshall Faulk. I misspoke. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I mean, LaDainian Tomlinson was pretty good too.
He was pretty good, but he never did 1,000 like Marshall Faulk. Marshall Faulk should have been the one I said. I said LaDainian Tomlinson. That was my mistake.
We did skip Montana Young.
What did we skip him on?
Gary wants
he wants to know about Montana
versus Young. Which one would you rather have?
That simple. I mean, you should know the pose. It's Montana. I mean, he's the reason Tom Brady does this. Joe Montana is the man. Do I have a lot of respect for Steve Young? Yes. But Joe was special. Nobody threw a deep ball like Joe Montana. The rhythm, the touch, he's fantastic. Joe Montana, number 1. Steve Young is behind him.
Look, this is how it is for me. It is Joe Montana is the greatest. There will be no changing of my mind ever. You can make all the arguments in the world you want about Tom Brady. I'm sorry, it's Joe Montana for me, and there's nothing that will ever. The only thing that could ever change it is a quarterback going 6-0 in the Super Bowls. That's the only thing that will put anyone ahead of Joe Montana in my mind. If you're able to have a lot of success, the length that Montana did, get to 6 straight Super Bowls, win all 6 of them, and then ride off into the sunset, it's yours. It's yours. I'll give it to you. But in terms of who is my favorite quarterback of all time, it's Steve Young. And it's just the way he played the quarterback position, the guts he played with, the tenacity, the shots, the kind of shots that guy would take, get up from, bounce right back in, and then just stick it down someone's throat. The way Steve Young played, I was in love with from the first time I saw him step on a football field. He is my favorite 49er of all time, just because I grew up at that time. I got to see so much of Steve Young. Plus, I had the opportunity to talk to Steve Young a couple different times, including getting his autograph. So he's just someone who, as a 49ers player, he's just always had a special place for me. But in terms of the best player in 49ers franchise history or the best quarterback, it's Joe Montana.
And I see Brad Jones says, who's third? Is that third best quarterback in 49ers history? Do we think, or?
I mean, if we're talking in 49ers history, is it Brody?
Or Tittle?
It's one of the two, right?
Yeah.
It has to be one of those two. It can't be Garcia. I love Garcia, but it can't be Garcia before one of those. One of them has to be next, and then you can have a conversation about Tittle or Garcia at 4.
Yeah.
Right? Like I just feel that's kind of how it has to go. If Garcia won a Super Bowl, then you could make the argument maybe for Garcia at 3.
I think the argument's between Tittle and Brody.
Brody, yeah, that's where
I think that's the argument.
Yeah. I think it's a good argument.
Yeah, I don't think Jeff Garcia did it for long enough.
Well, especially not in San Francisco.
Well, even when he went other places, it wasn't like he tore the roof off the place.
No, he played good, but not great.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah.
Joe Montana never lost a Super Bowl. He never threw a pick in a big game and holds all the highest Super Bowl quarterback ratings of all time. Yes? Yes. Craig or Gore, by the way. That's a good one.
Is it?
It is. Because here's the thing, right? Day ones, you know who they're going with.
Oh, I don't know if that's easy. Because we think both of them are Hall of Famers.
Correct.
One of them was good in the pass game. One was great in the pass game.
Very true.
Frank Gore is a better inside runner than Roger Craig.
Correct.
but Roger Craig was a fantastic running back as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this one's a tough one to me.
It is, but I think generationally, this is where you start to see the split in 49ers fans, right? Your late 90s, like became 49ers fans in the late 90s, early 2000s, are going to probably be Frank Gore guys.
100%. They'll be Frank Gore guys.
If you were before the 90s, you're probably going to be a Roger Craig guy. And if you're just a fan in general, you're going to think that this is a tough decision and a tough choice. This is tough for me because I didn't get to watch a lot of Roger Craig games. I've seen all the highlights, right? You've seen all the great stuff. They've highlighted the terrible of Roger Craig throughout the history books, right? Costing us the three-peat, as the crazy 49ers fans will say. And I got to see just the best of Frank Gore. Just all the best of Frank Gore. This is tough, man. I don't know if I can pick one.
I think it's how much value you put on Super Bowls.
Yes.
I mean, before Jerry Rice, Roger Craig was doing it all. In 84, he was a big part of that Super Bowl. In 88, he took over as tailback, and he was a big part of that Super Bowl. He could have been the MVP. He was there in 89, like you talked about. 90, he was also a great player. So it is really close. I will say this, as a running back, as a pure runner, Frank Gore is better.
Yes.
As a complete running back, catching the ball,
Craig.
Roger Craig is a better pass catcher. So I think it all depends on what you're looking at, but also
Gary asked the question.
Yeah.
If you're starting a team or a franchise today, and you had to choose between one of those two, which one are you taking?
Depends what offense, who's my coach. There's a lot of things that go into it. But I think either one of those guys you could take, and you wouldn't have to worry about it because neither one of them miss football games. Right? They both play, so when you're building a franchise, you don't really worry about it. First off, I would always start with the quarterback. That'd be number one. But I think that either one of them would be fine. And I'm not really going to answer this question because I don't have to. So I'm going to go ahead and say that I appreciate both of them and I like what they do. So I would start with either one of them. Whoever was available for me to use, I would start with either one of them.
Based on today's...
Hey, and the question is, Alex, one thing. Why not both? Roger Craig was a fullback.
It's true. I mean, listen.
It might be a little bit away.
Listen, that's very... Maybe you stole my thunder, and that's what I was going to say. Maybe I was going to say you signed one as a fullback and one as a running back.
There you go. I like
and now
it.
you have two running backs. Look, I think at the end of the day, you couldn't go wrong with either one. I think most coaches in today's NFL are going to take a guy like Gore because of the inside running presence and the fact that he's a more established type of running back, and he's a better running back. Because I don't know if every coach utilizes running backs as well in the pass game as some coaches do specifically. Yeah. If we're talking Kyle Shanahan, pre-2021, I think Roger Craig would be a fit in that type of scheme. But now that you're going new 2021 49ers, more of an inside running presence, probably Frank Gore. There's room for both of them on my list. I'm not going to pick. And Jason Hill, by the way, if you throw any more of that Roger Craig slander in this chat, I will put you in timeout.
Did he throw some out there?
He did. He said, I am that crazy 49ers fan. F Roger.
Oh, and bye, Monica. Have a good weekend.
Bye, Monica. Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I don't throw the slander at Roger Craig because without Leonard Marshall absolutely destroying Joe Montana, the 49ers win anyways.
It's true.
They wouldn't have been in that situation. I'm sure Craig beats himself up for that, fumble, but we can't hold that over him forever. He without him, it would have been harder to win in 84. It would have been harder to win in 88. It would have been harder to win in 89. So we got to remember that. He's still one of the best to do it. And holding one thing over his head, that's not fair.
That's true.
I'm just going to say that.
I agree with you. I almost put in you can only have one. You should have, Gary. You should have clarified.
Gary did not.
We're going to bend the rules.
He left us wiggle room. Appreciate it.
Don't ever leave us wiggle room. Yeah. We will. If you crack the door open, we will kick it open and run half a mile with it. Just when Alex Smith got a team to actually play with and have success, they bring Kaepernick. I was pissed. If Alex Smith was getting eaten alive, he could have been great with us. If he doesn't have his shoulder destroyed early in his career, I think Alex Smith has a much different career trajectory. That shoulder injury really limited his ability to push the ball downfield, and it limited his confidence in pushing the ball downfield. I was like you. I was very upset when the whole Smith thing happened, but very quickly understood that it's what needed to happen at the time.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Faulkner, this is a great question. If we have a winning record by week 8, say 5-3, do you see us making a midseason trade? And if so, what position do you think we trade for?
What do we need?
That's the question. You can't answer this question without knowing where the success and the faults have been in the 5-3 record, right?
Yeah, are we struggling to get edge pressure?
Maybe go trade for an edge rusher.
Or we had an injury at receiver, Debo's out. You know what I mean?
Jimmy went down and Trey's playing well, but maybe you're going to try and go make a trade and grab a veteran quarterback to just bring in the wings.
Emmanuel Mosley is nicked up, and you've got Aubrey Thomas out there, but he's struggling. Then you go get Stephon Gilmore. You know what I mean? There's too many things that you need to figure out.
100%.
So if there was, yeah, I think there's a broader question there.
No, it's one of those things where it's just you got to know where the struggles have been. Is there another running back injury as well? Does someone go down in the O line? There's a lot of things that could need to be addressed.
Yeah.
If I'm a betting man, then it would be either a wide receiver weapon because maybe the wide receivers aren't panning out, or it'd be a DB. Shore up the secondary.
I think the wide receiver position is not as big a weakness as everyone else thinks.
I don't think it is either, but barring injury, it could be.
They're going to stay healthy this year.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
I'm not even saying barring injury. I'm just telling you that's how it's going to be.
That's how it's going to be. That's a cute little prediction you came up with there. How did you come up with that? And you guess that's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Roger Craig, Garrison Hurst, Frank Gore, Charlie Warner, Ricky Waters were all beasts. Agreed. Agreed 100%.
I like that, Itchy.
I like that a lot. Jason asked, best Niner defensive player ever.
It all depends. I mean, I think that these things are fluid. Period of time in which they played. I think that, I think if I'm guessing, I would probably go with one of the linebackers, probably. Maybe like a Patrick Willis, somebody that I would lean towards. But I really enjoyed Charles Haley's play.
Mm-hmm.
But I would think Patrick Willis is the number one guy right now. But I have appreciation for a lot of the guys that came along the way, like Hacksaw Reynolds and some of those guys. So I would say Patrick Willis is probably the best. I wish he could have done it for longer. But I think that's a hard question because of era and time they played. Rules were different and things were different.
No one's on the fence. It's just a difficult question when you don't set parameters. Like if you give us an era, it'd be a lot easier to pick that. But I would say...
wait, I won't get off the fence. I'll give a sliding scale. It could be Patrick Willis, Fred Warner, all the way
to Antonio Langham?
Yeah.
There we go. That makes sense.
Any of those guys, because we want to do sliding scales for Jason.
100%. You gotta do sliding scales for Jason.
Because Jason's never on the fence.
Never. He's never been on the fence ever in his entire life.
Except his ass is always up a...
Hey! Language. Justin Smith. That is an interesting one, Dames.
I love Justin Smith.
Who doesn't love Justin Smith?
I love Justin Smith. I don't think he was on the level of Patrick Willis, but I love Justin Smith. In fact, out of those teams, he was my favorite player.
On those teams? Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair, 100%. Ronnie Lott, that's another great one.
Oh.
Haley and Lott.
Take it back. It's Ronnie Lott. I take it back. No, Patrick Willis. I'm going with Ronnie Lott.
I was shocked you didn't say Lott.
I'll be honest, for some reason I omitted him. I just didn't think of it in my thought
I was shocked. I was expecting...
100% that is the right answer.
Charles Haley, I was expecting out of you. I was expecting Ronnie Lott. I was expecting Patrick Willis. Those were the three names I thought for sure that you were going to bring up. So when you didn't bring up Lott, I was like...
I just, for some reason, I omitted him. Ronnie Lott's 100% the greatest defensive player in 49ers history. And now I'm not on the fence, Jason.
He's off the fence. Congratulations, Jason. Yeah. Congratulations. Bryant Young, another good one. Itchy as well. Another really
I like Bryant
really
Young.
Good one. No, I mean, who doesn't love Bryant Young? Who doesn't? And that's all Jason wanted to, by the way. He just wanted you to be off the fence and say Ronnie Lott. So congratulations. Jason, you got what you wanted. Hope you're happy.
I hope when he gets off the fence, he rips his shorts.
That would be so funny. That would be so great. Look, man, at the end of the day, this was a great one today. Chat, you were off the hook. You were just fantastic. Jason, congratulations. You got put in timeout. Nobody tells Ant that. Nobody tells him that. But no, chat, you were off the hook today. You were fantastic. You were great. As always. What is chat never on game and on point here? I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. And look, at the end of the day, right?
You see what Caleb said?
No, I missed it. It hasn't popped up for me quite yet. You're all wrong. It's Brian Allen. Oh, no! No! It can't be Brian Allen.
I love it.
Dumpster fires can't be the best player in 49ers history. Maybe the best player for another team in a single game.
He was the best offensive player for the Dolphins.
Oh, my God, dude. He doesn't know how to run cover 3. It's really bad.
I feel bad for him.
I do too, because no one's going to sign him after that performance. You think, is he on a practice squad?
I don't think so.
I don't think he'll ever be on a practice squad again. Unless someone's desperate. Unless the Delta variant's really, really bad. Oh, no. Both if he plays and if he's healthy, if he can put together the kind of year he put together as a rookie and continue that and grow on it,
Yeah.
he very well could be the case.
He would have to do it for a long time.
He's going to have to.
Yeah.
A very long time. But look, at the end of the day, this is a great conversation today. Shout out to Kyle Shanahan for going on the Flying Coach podcast and just laying out all the content for today. We really appreciate that, my guy. You should do that more often during dead time. You really should. You really should. And the other thing you all should be looking forward to is more conversations. We got a lot of different things in the works coming up with different podcasts, different shows. It's going to be a really good time. We got some different teams and other podcasts from other teams potentially coming in as well. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we're not just looking to talk with other 49ers fans and other 49ers podcasts. No. We're going to have conversations with everyone around the league, especially teams that have some sort of direct connection to San Francisco and potentially the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. So there's your teaser. We may have some people coming on in the future to talk about that. It's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well. That way you're notified every time we go live, which is Fridays at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time for all you East Coast fans out there, and for our daily episodes that premiere at 11 a.m.
Yeah, and you want to be here when we build towards training camp and into preseason. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of things to talk about. There's going to be a lot of exciting conversations, and a lot of exciting conversations that we want to have with everyone else that's in the Cutback crew. We have one of the best crews. They're the smart ones, as we've said before, and we always just have good conversations, and we all understand kind of each other's perspective, and then we can kind of, even if we disagree, we all will just look at it, examine it, and then see if we can see the other person's point of view, and then just move on accordingly as 49er fans. But that's the funnest part, is the conversation.
Oh, 100%. It's the best part of every single live stream we do, every single premiere we do, no matter what is going on this channel, the Cutback crew. You guys make this thing as special as it is. All 1,080 of you. We love you all to death. So make sure you guys keep helping grow this community. Keep sharing the content, right? Keep coming into the live chats, talking away, chatting it up, leaving comments down below, sharing the content with all your other 49ers fans, and giving us love and support, whether that's liking the video, sharing it, super chats, buying the merch, whatever it is. You guys have been fantastic. You've been great. You make this podcast just, man, it's the best part of every week for us.
It is. This is exciting. It's fun. Couldn't do it without everyone. That's the most important thing is everyone needs to know we really do appreciate them, and we appreciate all the fun conversation. And I can't wait to get into the training camp in the regular season, because that's when it all is going to count. And I'm curious how everyone's going to respond when we get into some of our pick'ems and stuff, because I know there's going to be a lot of fun conversations and a lot of entertaining times, because I don't know how many people have actually seen us do our in-season stuff, but it's going to be fun to do.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And who knows, maybe we'll throw a little teaser episode out there for all our new subs so you can kind of see what you got coming in the regular season, because it's going to be a whole heck of a lot of fun. We're going to have a great time this year. Season 2 of the 49ers Cutback is going to be the best one yet, and that's thanks to you, Cutback crew, and obviously all of our creative juices over here at the 49ers Cutback, which are just flowing with ideas each and every day. Man, I'm really looking forward to year 2.
Yeah, I am too. It's going to be a lot of fun, but you know what time it is? Let's chalk another one up.
See you on the next one. See you tomorrow morning. It's going to be a fun one. Bye.
From the alley-oops at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way. From off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
All right, so I'm gonna show you